Hello there, here we are again, Monday. How does that come around so quickly? It's extraordinary, isn't it? So it's Petrie here with you through until Tuesday morning, 1 o'clock. And coming up at midnight is the phone-in. It's a full hour of taking your calls and hearing your voices. And I do want to talk to you about one of our great institutions here in this country, or at least it was. Is it still? And that is the BBC. Ofcom has said that the BBC is losing the public's trust. We've got two reports. There was one on the behaviour of Greg Wallace, that came out today, and another one that is due to come out on the Gaza programme, where they inadvertently somehow got the son of a Hamas leader to be the narrator of said programme. It was overseen by very senior people at the BBC, but they'd failed to notice that the person who was narrating it was the son of a Hamas leader. So that's going to come out now. And then, of course, there's the whole situation with the villain, Bob Villain at Glastonbury. So have you lost faith in the BBC? Do you use the BBC? What about the licence fee, which is now £174.50 per year? Now, a lot of people say that is value for money. It is good value for money if you watch anything on the BBC, use BBC, iPlayer, all of those things. That is a good value for money. But is it? And is it time to think of looking at the BBC in a different way? Is it time that it found a different funding model? Is it time that, because the licence fee pays for about 68% of what the BBC does. It costs about £6 billion a year to run. And it's not surprising when you see some of the salaries. And that's not to mention the managers and the different levels. I mean, I worked there. And I was so fed up with the number of clipboard Johnnies, as I called them. They didn't seem to have a real job. And in fact, if you were rubbish at your job, if you were really bad at the broadcasting side of the BBC, you got promoted into management. That's what happens in these places where they don't really have to make their own money. So I want to test that. Do you still trust the BBC? Do you have trust in it? A lot of people do. If you want to see the news, you'll go to the BBC, you'll make sure, because they do verify everything, they triple check everything. I think their news is pretty trustworthy. But then you have the situation with Palestine and Israel, where people are saying that they've lost trust in that reporting. So I'd like to hear from you. What do you think? Is the BBC an institution that we cannot do without, or is it something that actually we don't need anymore? We've got all these different TV channels, we've got all these different ways of looking at the world. We don't really need them anymore. So give me a call, 0344 499 1000. You can text as well, put the word talk and then send your message to 87222. And you can WhatsApp as well on the same as the phone number, 0344 499 1000. So that is what's coming up at midnight. Ed Wiseman, transport and travel journalist, fabulous Ed Wiseman, he's going to be in going through the newspaper. Sandro Minetti is live from LA, talking us through all sorts of entertainment news. Alex Three Lions Irons will be here, talk sport presenter and producer, to talk us through some of the sporting highlights as well. Now though, today, according to who you read, and I've read quite a few people on this, either marks a dramatic change in the way Donald Trump sees the war between Russia and Ukraine, or it was just an opportunity for him to sell more weapons. Because in his statement today, Mark Rutte was there, you know, the man that called him daddy. He was there, and Germany was there as well. But they were talking about how they were going to arm Ukraine. But what have they actually given them? There's a lot of talk about defensive weapons for Ukraine, but there was a hope from Ukraine that there would be attack weapons in there also. Now, the details of what kind of weapons are a bit woolly. We know there's some Patriot missiles there. We know that Germany and other countries are going to be giving their Patriot missiles very quickly to Ukraine. They're defensive, to shoot down stuff coming over from Russia. And then the NATO is going to buy more of these weapons from America. That's going to keep the America First lot happy. But does this really mark a significant turn in Donald Trump's friendship with Putin? He's given him 50 days. Why 50 days? I have no idea. 50 days in which to come to some sort of peace agreement. Does this really mark very much at all, or is it just smoke and mirrors? Well, let's talk to Keir Giles now, who's a senior fellow at the Russia and Eurasia programme at Chatham House and author of an extremely good book that I read called Who Will Defend Europe. It's good to see you again, Keir. Thank you very much indeed for joining me. That's the question that's the forefront of my mind. Is this just puff, or does this really mark a significant turning point in Trump and Putin's relationship, in your view?
Well, the problem is, as you've already explained, we really don't know the details. Trump was his usual incoherent self and incredibly vague about what was actually being agreed. And Mark Rutte, the NATO Secretary General sitting next to him, didn't seem inclined to actually add any detail to what was being put out by Trump. So we simply don't know what is happening on the arms supply side. There has been talk about Patriot missiles, those anti-missile systems, which are so incredibly important for Ukraine because they're the only thing that's capable of shooting down Russia's most advanced missiles that are pummeling Ukrainian cities night after night. Beyond that, we simply don't know what is in this package. So until the details become clear, not just who's paying for it, but when, what will be delivered, what the timescale is, and whether there'll be any conditions put on the use of these weapons by Ukraine as they were under Joe Biden, we simply don't know how much of a turnaround this is. Then on the other side,
and this is the point, isn't it? That a package of just defence weapons is not really going to help Ukraine in terms of a peace deal. It'll help Ukraine in terms of stopping the decimation of parts of the country. But Ukraine has always maintained, look, we need the ability to attack, because at the moment, if we can't attack, we don't go to the negotiating table with anything.
That's true, but that's not to understate the importance of these air defense weapons for Ukraine, because they are under these constant and intensifying attacks from Russia, which are killing civilians night after night. This is something that Ukraine cannot do without. It's not just a battlefield weapon, but also something that is being used against Ukraine's ability to continue to function. So yes, offensive weapons would also be helpful, but more than anything else, of course, it would have been good if the conditions that were placed on using offensive weapons had been lifted much sooner. The previous administration under Joe Biden, they were first of all grudgingly, reluctantly, belatedly delivering weapon systems to Ukraine long after they were identified as being essential. And even then saying you can't do things with them, you can't strike into Russia, you can't upset the Russians too much with what we're giving you. So just as important as what is being supplied is all of the other conditions that go around this, and in particular, timescales. We know nothing about how fast this is supposed to happen. The 50 days deadline that you mentioned is the latest ultimatum from Trump saying to Putin, come to a peace agreement or we will impose sanctions on the people that do business with you. But 50 days is a very, very long time. Putin has already shown that he's able to outmaneuver Trump diplomatically in a much shorter space of time than that.
Yeah, I mean, exactly that. 50 days is an arbitrary number. I can't imagine how that was decided upon, although it was just pulled out of a hat. But like you said, I mean, Putin can do a lot with 50 days and has proven to be able to do so. And also the sanctions, if you look at the sanctions, already Russia is highly sanctioned. Okay, what Trump is talking about is a third-party sanction, isn't it? He's going to sanction countries that use Russian oil or gas. But there are a few NATO members who use Russian oil and gas already. I mean, that they haven't stopped buying it from Russia. And as far as sanctions are concerned, this hasn't stopped Putin's war machine so far. He's getting millions upon millions of weapons from North Korea. No sanction is going to change that arrangement.
Well, here too, we've got a bit of a problem with it not being entirely clear what's been agreed. Now, it's being assumed by everybody that when Trump talks about these 100% secondary tariffs, he's talking about the same thing that Senate Republicans have put forward, putting punitive economic tariffs on the countries that are buying Russian energy and so pumping money into Russia to keep the Russian war machine going. But I've also seen it reported that actually, no, this is direct sanctions on Russian imports to the United States, which are by now negligible. So there's still this lack of clarity about exactly what is planned. Either way, Moscow has breathed a sigh of relief because all of this talk about supposed 500% sanctions on countries that are trading with Russia has disappeared into thin air. So the Moscow Stock Exchange today was up because they were fearing that something much worse could have been delivered.
I mean, also there is the very real possibility, if not probability, that Donald Trump will back out of this, that he will chicken out. That one phone call from Putin saying, "Come on, Donny boy, we're mates," could see this all change on a dime.
Absolutely right. And of course, on all of the previous occasions where Trump has put forward these supposed ultimatums to Putin, he has backed out of it. He's looked for excuses not to follow through. And 50 days, as you said earlier, gives an awful lot of time to do that. So there is plenty of wriggle room for Trump to go back on what he seems to be promising at the moment and actually not present Russia with those difficult choices.
And maybe that's as well why the Russian market didn't fall as much as they were expecting it to, because they trust not to trust his word.
Absolutely. They'll be judging Trump by what he does rather than by what he says. And as we've learned over the entire period of watching Trump in and out of office, there's a very big difference between the two.
Regarding that relationship between Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin, we're led to believe, again by Trump, that they do talk regularly, that they are, they're relatively close. But there does seem to be a shift in Donald Trump towards Putin.
Certainly, he's speaking about Putin in a different way now. At the early stages of Trump's current presidency, he was blaming Ukraine for the war. He was saying that it is all Zelensky's fault that it is carrying on. And now he's very definitely pointing at Putin as the aggressor. So something has shifted. And whatever it is that keeps Trump in thrall to Russia and keeps it so so deferential to Moscow and not wishing to offend Russia in any way, that seems to be slipping. But time and again, we've seen these sparks of frustration from Trump, these outbursts on social media or throwaway comments, showing that he recognizes that, as Sir Alex Younger, the former head of MI6, said just the other day, that Putin is making him look like a muppet. But he seems so far to be ready to tolerate that. Now, whether something has genuinely shifted and Putin no longer has the hold over Trump that he once did, and Trump is now so frustrated that he'll do something against Russia, again, we just don't know until we find out the detail of what's been agreed.
Now, let's turn our attention now to just Russia on its own. During the Iran-Israel crisis, the 12 days, 13 days, Russia announced, almost didn't get any fanfare, that it did want to take the whole of Ukraine. That was it. That is its end goal. That is everything. What will stop Putin from eventually achieving that goal?
The same thing as we've always known will stop Russia. It is only a defeat that is serious enough to change the minds not just of the people in the Kremlin, but of ordinary Russians about whether they are entitled to an empire and whether they should be waging war against their neighbors in order to try to recover it. Unless and until Russia receives a setback that is sufficiently unarguable that they are shown that this is not the way in which they can achieve their dreams of what they think Russia ought to be, they will still be the biggest danger to Europe.
And that takes us all the way back to the question about attack, doesn't it? This takes us all the way back to what Ukraine has been saying from day one, and that is that we're fighting this war with one arm tied behind our backs, because until Putin receives a bloody nose, or Russia receives a bloody nose, this is not going to stop, right?
That's exactly right. And of course, it's not just Ukraine that knows this. It is all of the frontline states. It's all of those countries that have that experience of being under Moscow's domination. And that's the reason why those countries closest to Russia are the ones which are most fervent in support of Ukraine, that are donating so much, that are transferring to the Ukrainian armed forces so much of their own military capability, because they understand more clearly sometimes than people in Western Europe that Ukraine is actually fighting this war for all of us. They are the front line for the whole of Europe.
What about NATO? And I mean, I will never forgive Russia for referring to Donald Trump as daddy. I thought it was demeaning for the whole of the rest of the world. I know why he did it, and it seems to, maybe it's paid off, who knows. Can the rest of NATO, i.e. without America, really defend us against Russia?
At the moment, it's very hard to say. Russia is so tied up in Ukraine that it would take not only the end of combat operations in Ukraine, but also a significant shift in where Russia is actually allocating the bulk of its land forces to pose the kind of threat that most people are describing to other NATO nations, to other countries within Europe. But the problem we have, of course, is that that's not the only way in which Russia can cause trouble for us. Everybody focuses on the frontline states as the potential next place where Russia might mount some kind of attack, some kind of intervention, possibly with the objective of showing that NATO isn't capable of resisting and thereby causing NATO to cease to exist altogether. But that overlooks the fact that Russia can strike at enormous distances, far beyond the frontline states. And they've been practicing doing so for decades now. These missile strikes that come into Ukraine, they're launched at ranges of thousands of kilometers. That means that as soon as Russian bombers, for example, fly around the top of Norway into the Norwegian Sea, they're already in missile range for the whole of Western Europe, including the UK. And cyber attacks and proxies and the ways in which Russia can reach out and touch countries which are far from its borders are all ways that we should be thinking about how Russia can harm countries in Europe beyond the frontline states. And that is something that, with or without the United States, NATO is poorly prepared to prevent.
If there was a situation where Russia tested NATO, and there was some talk that he would, a small missile just over the border, you know, one of the bordering countries, doesn't really matter which one, not that far. It could look accidental, it might not be. Will NATO just fold?
Well, of course, in order to do that, Russia has to be absolutely confident that it's not going to blow back. Yeah. They have to be absolutely convinced that NATO is not going to fire as intended. The United States are not going to come to the help of Europe. There won't be an agreement between NATO nations. So Russia has to create the political conditions first in order to have that confidence, and we're a long way off that yet. But it is something about which NATO nations are very concerned and obviously stressing NATO unity as the way to avoid that. Now, Petrie, are we allowed to mention Sky News on your channel?
Yes, you can. Yeah.
Sky News ran at the beginning of June a podcast series called The War Game, and it was a simulation of the kind of government decision-making that happens in real life, but in the event of a Russian attack on the UK. What that would look like, how NATO might work, how the Americans might respond. It's a 5-episode podcast, and to really understand the kind of dilemmas that would be facing not just this country, but Western Europe as a whole in that kind of situation, I really recommend a listen. It's called The War Game, and it's available wherever you get podcasts.
Yeah, I've listened to it. I thought it was excellent, as you said. Just finally, when it comes to NATO now, Donald Trump has said, oh, well, you know, I'm not sure we would come to your aid or not. If Trump is in power and he is needed, if Article 5 was to be triggered, what do you think his response would be?
It's absolutely impossible to tell. And the reason why we say that, as opposed to simply taking Trump at his word that he probably wouldn't honor NATO's Article 5, the clause of the North Atlantic Treaty that says that all of the allies have to treat an attack on one of them as though it were an attack on all, is simply because there is such a huge gap between what Trump says and what Trump does. But also because there are so many parts of the American defense establishment that as yet are untouched by this fire axe that the U.S. administration has taken to its own government, to the functioning of its own federal entities. The Department of Defense abroad, those U.S. troops that are stationed around the world, are suffering as a result of the administrative turmoil that's coming from D.C., but they haven't been told to do anything different from what they understand their missions to be already. So there are U.S. forces in Europe. There are standing instructions for what they would do. The political decision that would be taken in D.C. would have to be weighed against the fact that people are already in place to deal with contingencies. So the very short answer is we don't know, but there's a far, far longer explanation of why exactly it's less predictable than just taking Trump at his word that he wouldn't move when he needed to.
Because the rule is actually he doesn't really have to. There is a loophole to not taking part in Article 5.
Well, sadly, Article 5, a lot of people think it means that you have to go to war on behalf of your allies. And unfortunately, if you read on through what exactly it says, it's a great deal more vague than that.
Yeah.
And you can meet the criteria of Article 5 by just sitting on your hands and doing nothing until the war is over, because that's the criterion: peace and security restored in the Euro-Atlantic area. And that can happen after Russia has won.
Absolutely. Finally, the Americans are looking very closely at Europe at the moment with regards to those troops that you're talking about there. There is some concern there will be drawdown of American troops across Europe, and they will be moved to Asia, to South Asia. Do you see that happening? Many people are suggesting that it is going to happen, that we will find out in October, and that is a way for Donald Trump really to do the America First thing as well.
Well, again, we need to look at the difference between the expectations when Trump came in and what's actually happened. Those withdrawals on the scale that people were talking about simply have not happened. There has not been this directive to scale down the commitment to Europe in terms of manpower that was expected before Trump came in. You've had the persistent noises from the individuals around Trump, particularly in the Department of Defense, that want to deprioritize Europe in order, they say, to pour more efforts into containing China. Although the way that matches up with what they actually intend to do with those troops is, it doesn't actually seem to support that is the real intention, but they haven't yet followed through on doing it. And it's interesting to look what happens with the internal convulsions in this administration over, for example, arms to Ukraine. Just last week, we had the temporary halting of arms deliveries to Ukraine, those supplies of military aid that had already been agreed and were waiting to move in, on the orders of one of the more junior officials in the Department of Defense, possibly doing what he thought Trump wanted him to do, possibly thinking he could do it without Trump noticing or caring so he could get away with it. But either way, that was reversed, and Trump, in his current mood, was not willing to cut off aid to Europe in that way.
Yeah, Trump said he didn't know anything about it, didn't he? He didn't know who did it.
It's entirely possible. It's quite plausible given the current state of the US administration.
It's absolutely extraordinary.
The way they can't coordinate between themselves after gutting the National Security Council, for example, where things like this would previously have been staffed out and worked out between the agencies.
It's extraordinary times, it really is. Keir, another book for you, Keir.
It's in the works. Yes.
I'm sure it is, and I shall look forward to reading it. Keir Giles, Senior Fellow, the Russia and Eurasia Programme, Chatham House, and author of Who Will Defend Europe. It really is a very good book. Have a read of it. Quick break, back in a sec. Hello there, this is Talk and it's Petrie here with you. Just a reminder of what we're going to be talking about at midnight, and that is the BBC. It is and always has been that great institution. It provides us with news. It provides us with the fabulous World Service. I also worked there for a bit. But is it really an institution that shouldn't die? I suppose. I mean, when you're looking at institutions, if you're paying for your TV licence, £174 and 50 pence per year for the privilege. Now, for me, it's worth the money. I'm just saying that because I use a lot of BBC News stuff. I read a lot of their stuff. I do use iPlayer, I object hugely, though, to having to pay a TV licence if you watch anything live. That's just wrong. You should only pay a TV licence if you use the BBC, like if you listen to the radio, which I don't, and if you watch their news channel, which I don't tend to. I will double check it. I usually do. Another news channel is one that I will switch on every morning when I'm prepping this programme, because it does more international stuff a bit better, I think. But the question, I suppose, is, do you still trust the BBC? Do you like the BBC? Do you use the BBC? Do you think that the licence fee is good value for money for you? And should this institution be preserved and protected? Or is it really, now that we've got all these different channels, all these different ways of accessing news and information, is it really that, and entertainment, is it really that important anymore? That's what we're going to be talking about at midnight. I want your views. You are users of this. You certainly pay the TV licence, probably, and therefore you have a say in it. So give me a call, 0344 499 1000, and you can send me a message, send it to Talk, and then your message to 87222. Hello there. At the moment, you're with Petrie, and I'm with you until 1 o'clock. Just a reminder, coming up, Sandro Minetti live from LA, and we have Ed Wiseman in the studio going through the papers for Tuesday, for the front pages anyway. Right now, though, it is time to catch up on sport with TalkSport presenter and producer Alex Three Lions Irons. Hello there.
Hello, how are you doing?
All right, thank you. I was all right, actually, until I saw Donald Trump celebrating with Chelsea over their win. It looked a bit awkward with him sort of claiming some of the valour for that when he handed over the the trophy.
Yeah, just a little bit. I mean, as someone who's a Fulham fan and doesn't really like Trump either, it made me doubly ill to see all of them on stage together at once. And also knowing that there are quite a few Chelsea fans in the office that are not going to shut up for the next 4 years. I'm going to keep my head down for as long as possible.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a little bit awkward. Obviously, of course, when a team wins a major title, be it now a Club World Cup, a Euros, a World Cup, you'll see the leaders of that nation go up on stage and present the trophies to the winning team and the losing teams and the referees and all that kind of stuff. We saw it with with the Qatar World Cup, I should say, a couple of years ago, and we're going to see it again in 2026 when the World Cup happens next year, with Trump again back on the stage. But it was just a little bit awkward to see Trump essentially not moving away when Chelsea went to lift the Club World Cup trophy. You even had Cole Palmer in the background, who scored 2 of the goals yesterday and set up the winner for João Pedro, essentially saying, "Is this guy going to move?" And Reece James, who the captain of Chelsea, who lifted the trophy, wasn't entirely sure what to do until he got the thumbs up to essentially go ahead and lift the trophy.
Yeah, he's supposed to drop the trophy off, shake the hands of the captain,
and then leave,
so that they can celebrate. And in fact, it seemed like, I don't know who it was that came on and pushed him to the back.
So that was the head of FIFA,
he moved
Gianni
him.
Infantino, trying to move him initially, and Trump wouldn't budge. To which he then joined in with the celebrations, and you could see that he wanted to be more involved. If he was more actively able to move, he probably would have been jumping around and joining in with the celebrations, but he was more or less doing his little jig as he normally does and clapping his hands. Chelsea then later on retook the winning moment and retook the photo for them to share on their social media, because they didn't want Trump in the photos of them winning the Club World Cup. So which is completely
enough.
Understandable. I thought initially they had edited him out completely, but he is still lingering around in the background even of that shot, so you can't quite get rid of him even if he's not front and centre.
I mean, look, if he was a massive Chelsea fan, you can imagine him just getting carried away with the moment. But it was just like it just felt like he wanted all eyes on him and this celebration to be his celebration, when it wasn't his celebration. It was the football team's celebration. It
was Chelsea's, and this is a man who was also, I think, in the 80s. On a TV show with Jeff Shreves, I'm pretty sure, doing the draw for the Rumbelows Cup, for anyone that remembers that. It was before my time in the 1980s. I'm pretty sure that is the third tier cup, which is for League One and League Two now. So he was doing that draw back in the late 1980s, early 1990s, and since then has gone on to do this, stand in the way of Chelsea at one of their proudest moments.
Yeah, it was just so awkward. I mean, just rude, actually, just rude.
Just a little bit. But for Chelsea, it was a good achievement. They beat a very, very strong PSG team, who, of course, wiped Real Madrid out of the semi-finals, beating them 5-0. And, of course, they are the current Champions League champions, winning against Inter Milan 5-0 in the process to do that. So it wasn't an easy task for Chelsea, but they looked like they essentially took PSG's game to them and tried to nullify them, and went 3-0 up pretty early in the first half, and were able to hold on to that lead. PSG then went down to 10 men 10 minutes before the end of the game. They had a player sent off for pulling the hair of one of the Chelsea players, and essentially they lost their heads. Manager Luis Enrique at the end of the game essentially put his palm into the face of João Pedro, the new Chelsea striker. And it all kind of kicked off towards the end of the game, and you can kind of see it had that element to it. PSG losing their heads. It was Marc Cucurella who was brought down by having his hair pulled completely off the ball as well. So it's a bit of a shame it ended the way it did. It's not exactly a classic of a final. And it also felt kind of overmarred by the fact that Gianni Infantino, despite hailing the competition as success, did it because the competition was making a lot of money for FIFA, not necessarily the fact that the football was good. And there were a lot of issues, of course, with the weather. We had a lot of games which were halted for more than half an hour. Chelsea v Benfica in the earlier knockout rounds was delayed by 2 hours due to a weather delay, and we had that a lot during the group stages and during the early knockout rounds as well. And luckily, it didn't happen in the semi-finals or the final. So that's something we will probably be expecting in the World Cup, and I'm not sure how FIFA are going to really try and navigate those, considering there are a lot of teams. There are 48 teams in the World Cup next year, and you can't exactly have really early kickoffs. You're going to have 4 games a day, which are 1 or 2 of them at least is going to be halted by the weather at some point. And you can't have really early kickoffs because it means you're kicking games off at maybe 9 o'clock in the morning or earlier local time, and that's not feasible for the clubs involved.
No, that's not going to how they're going to make their money, is it?
They're not going to make money, and people aren't going to go, and people aren't necessarily going to be able to watch them either from home.
And just a very quick point on that, the people not being able to go. There was a Chelsea player I saw talking earlier on who's saying, look, they were selling tickets to our game for $4. Because
it was the semi-final.
People just not going, and there is concern over the World Cup.
Yeah, it was the semi-final against Fluminense where essentially, I think 2 days before the final, tickets were being sold for about $270. The day of the game, they were being sold for about $8. So there was just no real demand to people to go and watch that game. For the Paris v Madrid game, tickets were a lot higher. They're about $140. That's the problem when you've got Ticketmaster involved and they have a lot of surge pricing. Games are going to go for different prices depending on what the demand is for those games. And there are of course other issues going on in the States. People don't want to travel over there at the moment. There are some teams who have already qualified for the World Cup next year who aren't going to be able to take fans, Iran being one of the most notable teams who have already qualified from the Asian qualification groups. So it's going to be quite, I think Venezuela are also vying for their first ever World Cup appearance. They've never appeared at a World Cup before. If they qualify, people aren't going to be able to travel there because they're on the travel ban into the States. And of course, with all the everything going on with ICE at the moment and people essentially being picked up as they're landing and being taken to who knows where, people are going to be more than rightly be looking at staying at home and not travelling to the USA for the World Cup. But it is in Mexico and it is in Canada, so people might be more likely to travel to those games.
Let's have a look, if we can. Just we'll skip forward on to the tennis. Of course, that's the big one, isn't it? The Wimbledon is over for this year, and there is a winner.
Yeah, blink and it's over just like that. Those 2 weeks absolutely flew by. World number 1 Jannik Sinner won his first ever Wimbledon title by wearing down Carlos Alcaraz in another high-quality Grand Slam final between the dominant forces of the men's game. These finals have been happening quite a lot over the past year or so, and they've now been called, I think, Sincaraz. I think then fans are now calling the matches between these two players, which it doesn't really quite work. It's not quite. It's not like Brad and Angelina Jolie. Is it? I can't remember what it was now.
Brangelina.
Brangelina, there you go. You know more than I do in that sense. But Sinner claimed a 4-6, 6-4, 6-4, 6-4 victory at the All England Club, avenging his brutal French Open defeat by Spanish world number 2 Alcaraz just 35 days ago. So like I said, these two are meeting in finals pretty consistently. Sinner led by 2 sets and held 3 championship points before Alcaraz roared back to win a 5-set classic lasting more than 5 hours. So if you've got a ticket to that game on Centre Court yesterday, you definitely got your money's worth. I remember going and watching the women's semi-finals in 2019, and both games lasted less than an hour. So it was fun being there, and it was a great opportunity just to kind of sit down watching tennis and soak in some stars. But I wanted the games to last a little bit longer. And if you're a fan of tennis and you're able to get a ticket for this one, it sounds like you were there and soaking in a lot of star power, which is
a brutal heat though for that game as well. The 2025 Island Games are underway. Yeah,
so the Island Games are like the Olympics, but on a smaller scale. So these are for island nations and island countries. So you've got this year is taking place in Orkney. So it's like you've got athletics, you've got badminton, you've got football as well. They were opened this year by Prince Anne. It happened on Sunday, the opening ceremony. And it's the 20th Island Games. And it's been described as a once-in-a-lifetime experience for the athletes involved. There are competitors from 24 different island communities as they prepare for a week-long event as she officially opened the Games in Orkney on the weekend. So there is football, which of course is why I've got an eye on this as well. But there is a medals table up already, and it looks as though the Faroe Islands are already running away with things at the Island Games this year. They've got 17 gold, 10 silver and 6 bronze. The Isle of Man follow them up in second with 8 gold, 8 silver and 9 bronze, and Jersey follow them in third with 7 gold, 7 silver and 6 bronze. But you've got a lot of other nations in there. The Cayman Islands are there. Orkney, the hosts, have picked up 7 medals already. Gibraltar all there, although they're not technically in islands, but they still count anyway. You've got Menorca, Ynys Mons, which is Anglesey, and Greenland as well. And you've got other countries or islands like Hitra as well, who are playing in the football. You've got Frøya. Both of those are islands in Norway. They've got communities there. Shetland, Gozo, of course, the island next to Malta. They've got a football team that's taking part in this as well. And you've also got Bermuda and the Western Isles of Scotland who are taking part in the football. They're already out of the football competition. They've lost their 2 games in their group stage against Bermuda and Ynys Mons, Anglesey, for those of us who speak English. But this is a competition that I've had my eye on for a little while. They held it in Guernsey 2 years ago. It happens every 2 years. And unfortunately, I wasn't able to go and check out the football this year. But hopefully in 2 years' time, I can get on a plane or boat or walk to wherever the island games are taking place in 2027.
Yeah, it doesn't make it on television though, does it? Is it
I think it's on YouTube, so you can go and watch the live streams, and you can go back and watch the games in full on their YouTube channel. So it's definitely worth a watch if you're into your sport and you're into your niche of sports as well. Then the Island Games is definitely worth looking at.
It sounds absolutely brilliant, actually. Alex, thank you. Great to speak to you. I will see you next week. Alex 3 Lines Irons, their TalkSport presenter and producer. Hello there, good evening to you. This is Talk and it's Petrie here with you. Don't forget that we have Ed Wiseman in the studio at the top of the hour going through the newspapers for Tuesday. But before that can happen, this has to happen. Sandro Minetti joins me, showbiz journalist and film producer. Hello, Sandro. You're looking well.
It's time. Thank you. It's time to talk TV, movies and celebrity, my favourite subjects.
Absolutely, and I cannot believe you're wearing a T-shirt with your own name on it.
Yes, how narcissistic is that? For those who are not in vision, it says, it's a Sandro thing you wouldn't understand.
You're also, what you have to know about Sandro is that he's about 6'6" tall, so you can't miss him anyway.
Yes, fitting into the frame is very difficult.
It's very difficult. Talk to me about Superman, not Donald Trump. That awful meme that came out of him as Superman, but the new Superman movie,
which was maybe helped by Donald Trump because he did post a meme of himself dressed in a superhero outfit, on the day the movie came out.
Can they not copyright sue him for that? It was exactly the same outfit.
Well, it's a great point because Superman is actually going to drop out of copyright in about 5 years' time. I think James Gunn and Warner's got this one in just in time, and Superman has soared at the box office and also done no less than rescued cinema. Jurassic Park sequel started this off last week. Superman's kept it going. You know, people come on TV and radio a lot, and they always declare the death of cinema. Fools! Fools! Cinema will never die. You know, as long as you keep making movies about brands and American myths. And of course, you know, Superman is the ultimate American myth, isn't it? You know, the Greeks have Homer's Odyssey, and here in the States, they've got the Man of Steel. And the audience turned out in huge numbers to see David Corenswet. There's a name to conjure with. The new Superman. You think you've seen this story before, and of course you have. But they add new elements. And I think what I loved about this movie was Superman's dog, Crypto. You'll believe a dog can fly. For animal lovers, and I know you are one, Petrie, this is the movie to go and see because, you'll go for Superman, but you'll leave talking about Crypto.
Yeah, whenever I see a film with an animal in it, though, I just concentrate on whether that is going to live all the way through the film. I don't care about the humans.
Oh, good point. It is a moment of suspense, because Crypto, goes through a rough ride. But I don't think I'll spoil anything too much when I say that Crypto will also be in the follow-up movie Supergirl. So we've not seen the last of Crypto.
Good. Well, that's good. That takes the pressure off me. So some people, though, were saying, Sandro, some of the critics have not been very kind about this particular Superman. They've been saying that he's a bit woke, it's a bit flimsy, that it is not the Superman grit of old.
Doesn't matter. And I say this as a proud member of the Critics' Choice Association. Critics are becoming increasingly irrelevant. And so is marketing. When this movie sort of came out, I was thinking there wasn't much pre-publicity for it, but it was all on TikTok, which I'm not on. And they really sort of connected with the audience. So it doesn't really matter about the reviews, I think.
I suppose not.
It's word of mouth.
It's the box office always says it all, doesn't it? New image was released today of the new young Harry Potter that I saw. But I'm more excited about the fact that Nick Frost is going to be Hagrid. I couldn't think of anybody better than Nick Frost to be Hagrid.
Who else could step into the shoes of Robbie Coltrane?
No one. Nick Frost is a genius. I love him.
It's funny, you were saying that the sort of critics were knocking Superman, and a lot of people were saying, well, why do we need a Harry Potter TV series? Well, the fact is, it's 20 years or more since Daniel Radcliffe, Emma Watson, and Rupert Grint did the movies, so we've got a whole new generation of kids to fall in love with Harry Potter stories. And so, that's young Dominic McLaughlin, who's playing Harry Potter. And some great character actors filling out the rest of the parts. As you mentioned, we've got Nick Frost in there. We've got John Lithgow, who was Churchill in The Crown, of course, and who's playing Dumbledore. You've got Janet McTeer, another of my favourites, as McGonagall. You've got Paul Whitehouse in there as the caretaker. And so, yes, this will provide work for British actors for 8 more years. Just as the films did.
Yeah, and she's involved with it, isn't she, Rowling? And again has said, well, as she did with the films, I'm sorry, they have to be British actors. This is the rule.
Well, John Lithgow crept in, not a British actor,
true.
But he's an honorary Brit, I suppose, having played Winston Churchill so well in The Crown and won an Emmy for it. Yes, she has got her name above the credits on it. So it'll be interesting to see how much sort of backlash that is around that, and how much publicity she fronts, if any, when the series comes out. We've got quite a wait. It's going to be early 2027. until HBO screens episode 1, but the plan is to make 8 series here to dramatize all the books, to have them go into the story much more than the films ever did. And to me, it's a can't miss. Who's not a Harry Potter fan? And yes, it's you say all the stories been told before, but so was Superman. And look how well that has done it.
There's only about 6 stories anyway, isn't there, in the world? They're just told in a different way.
Great point.
Talking of children's characters, Elmo from Sesame Street, it appeared that he was sending a series of incredibly offensive posts on X.
Yes, the beloved children's character, had his X account hacked over the weekend, and he started by saying that Donald Trump was on the Epstein list, and then things got progressively worse and more offensive. In fact, there were so many offensive tweets on there that one commenter thought that maybe Kanye West had hacked Elmo's X account. But happily, all those offensive tweets have now been deleted, but not before. People had screenshotted them and they'd gone around the world, and everyone's thinking, what's happening to Elmo? He's having a bad weekend. But Sesame Street, very protective of their image, of course. They have been over the last 6 decades, and they were very keen to point out that Elmo disassociates himself from all these views, and is returning to his more childlike nature of positivity, joy, and hope. But is no one safe? Is no one safe?
No, it would appear not. And certainly Rosie O'Donnell isn't safe from Trump's ire. She's been living rent-free in his head for about 18 years now, hasn't she? I mean, a really long time.
She really gets under his skin.
Yeah.
To the point where, rather than just, Rosie O'Donnell always said she would leave the United States if Trump got elected, and the actress was as good as her word. She now lives in Ireland. But as far as Donald Trump's concerned, he wants to keep her there. So he was posting on Truth Social, where his account never seems to get hacked, and he was posting that he's giving serious consideration to revoking her American citizenship. Now, he can't actually do that because despite recent headlines, there is still a birthright to American citizenship. But who knows? What's possible in executive orders? Maybe he'll make an exception for Rosie O'Donnell.
Well, he can't make her stateless. So unless she's an Irish citizen, which she is not, I believe, he can't do it anyway because she's American. You can't just pick and choose like that.
She has responded in kind by releasing on her own socials a picture of Donald Trump with Mr. Epstein, and so she won't give it up. So
good for her.
She really is a fighter and very brave, because she's getting a lot of hate, not just from Donald Trump, but all the support.
Well, she moved to protect her autistic son as well, didn't she?
She did.
She felt that there wouldn't be the support and the education for him in Trump's America, and she's probably right.
Well, that's a great point, because not many celebrities have been supporting her. I mean, Ellen DeGeneres is about the only one, who
also has skipped
Dodge. Silence. Who's also exactly as well.
Yeah.
But come on, Cher. Cher said she'd moved to Venus. Last time I checked, she was still in Malibu.
Well, the weather's probably a bit better in Malibu.
Probably.
Just very quickly, Jennifer Aniston is dating a hypnotist. Does she know this?
Yes, she is. Hypno Jim. Jim Curtis, to give him his name. Now, let's hope this works out, because Jennifer, lovely person, great talent, has been very unlucky in love. But she's been holidaying in Mallorca with this hypnotist who seems to have cast something of a spell on her. And he has a rather colourful love life himself. In his own autobiography, he said that he could never keep a girlfriend because he gets bored, and he tends to date someone new every quarter. But let's hope he's cured himself of that, and Jennifer Aniston is a keeper. Or If he hasn't cured his ways, hopefully she wises up and throws him off the boat and moves on to someone better.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'd date a guy who had written in a book that he was going to biff you after a quarter. I'm not sure the trust would be there.
Alarm bells ringing, there's some red flags.
Yeah, there'd be a little bit of probably a large a Les Mis red flag rather than a small one.
You want to go down to Mallorca and fly that Les Mis red
Yeah,
flag.
exactly. I mean, that would do it for me. Let's just quickly end off with your film, a new short film set around women's football.
That's right. Well, aren't the Lionesses doing well? And hopefully that inspires loads of young women to get into football, as does our short film, Back of the Net, which is premiering here in Los Angeles this Saturday. Some great British talents involved in it, and I've executive produced it along with the director of Ted Lasso, Declan Lowney. And it's about a young woman trying to go for her dreams to try and become a lioness herself. So look out for that online very shortly on Minute Shorts. It'll be playing in Britain at Lewes Football Club in Sussex on the 27th, the day of the Euros final. And very pleased to be involved with this movie, which has a wonderful message. Girls, go for your dreams.
And was this shot in the UK?
It was indeed. It was shot in Peckham, no longer just famous for Only Fools and Horses, also a hotbed of English women's football.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Peckham is a go-to place. I mean, you're not going to... And when do we see you this side of the pond as well? You're coming over soon.
You will see me in September when I'll be in studio with you, and you'll see me in December when my Die Hard musical returns to the Museum of Comedy in London. So looking forward to seeing you when the weather gets colder.
I shall look forward to it, Sandra, when the weather gets colder. Yeah, I don't blame you. It's hell here at the moment. Sandra Ominetti, thank you very much indeed. Always a pleasure. Showbiz journalist and film producer. Right. Coming up now here on Talk, Ed Wiseman will be in the studio going through tomorrow's newspapers. Hello there, good to have your company, and with me is the fabulous Ed Wiseman, transport and travel journalist. Good
Hi,
to see
Petrie.
you.
How are you doing?
Clean shaven.
Feeling clean shaven.
Given up on the moustache.
Absolutely, for now it's too hot. It's too hot to have a moustache. You wouldn't know
You've
this.
given up on the mullet as well.
I've given up on just all of it. I honestly, if I could shave more of my hair off at this point, I would. I was tempted to get a number 2 all over on the hottest day.
All over?
Just the whole thing, just trim
Your
me.
whole body?
Put me on the table
A number
like
2.
a prize poodle and trim me until I've cooled down. But then I remembered it's only summer for 15 minutes in this country and it's going to start raining soon. So
Yeah.
I do need some facial coverage for the
will.
chilly autumn months.
So you use your facial hair like clothing, really?
Sort of.
Right.
Well, you wouldn't know this because you've never grown out your moustache.
I have never
Not
grown
yet,
out my
but
moustache. Not yet.
It is quite annoying in the summer.
Is it?
It's just it probably doesn't impact your heat that much.
No.
But I feel as though when you are absolutely baking and can't sleep, you might as well shave your moustache off just to reduce your core temperature by 1/4 of a degree. It might be the clincher.
It might be the clincher.
It might just do it. If you are also, as I was, I had a frozen water bottle in my bed just to keep the temperature down. Do you not get this? This seems to be a very divisive topic. I really don't like being too hot.
No, I can't. I don't like. I like
you've
a cold
said that
bedroom.
before. You prefer a cold bedroom.
Much
but
prefer.
how have you coped in this?
Really, really well.
Yeah?
Actually, yeah, because I'm underground,
Okay.
so it's perfect temperature.
You just burrowed.
I burrowed, yeah.
Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah.
No, that is a.
I
really
can't.
interesting-
Some of my property I can't use because that's above ground.
Yeah.
And that's too hot.
Yeah.
But parts of it are below ground, and I can sleep in there.
You can just go down there
Yeah,
like
yeah.
a badger,
Yeah.
pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much.
No, that's a good strategy. I don't have a downstairs in my flat because downstairs belongs to a nice family.
Oh, well, I would just move in.
And just say hi. It's colder
it's
down
hot.
here.
Yeah, it's colder down here.
Long
just gonna
story,
work.
but I
no,
need
it's,
to-
it's actually really cool at my place. But I can't use my outdoor studio.
No, I was
because
going to ask about that.
because that
Greenhouse.
has been insulated within an inch of its life. And it's like a microwave oven in
Yeah.
there. So the painting is, and the paint dries too quickly as
It
well.
dries too quickly.
Yeah.
Oh,
In
I
the
would have thought
oil,
it was.
because you want to keep it fluid so you
Yeah.
can move it or take it off if you make a mistake and things like that. But it crusts
interesting.
over, and also on the palette.
So you've just painted the palette.
We have to put a lot of oil. I put a lot of linseed oil in the oil paint so that it doesn't crust
Interesting.
over. But then it's very
A different
thin.
texture.
Yeah. Anyway,
That's interesting. I would have thought that the paint would be more liquid in the heat. I would have thought that it would sort of melt and just dribble.
And I wouldn't do watercolours in this. I don't like watercolours anyway, but because it would just dry instantly, you wouldn't be able to get any movement in the paint. It'd be terrible.
Waste of time.
Waste of time. Not going to do
So
it.
there are many reasons why you're not in your summer house.
Many
slash
reasons why
studio.
I'm not in my shed /
Yeah.
studio at the back of the garden. But no, I'm coping reasonably well at the moment, which is more than can be said for the BBC.
Go on.
Ofcom has warned that the BBC is losing the public's trust.
Because they have a scandal every 20 seconds. Yeah.
Do you think that, I mean, the thing is with the BBC, right, it's been that institution that has always been there. Does that mean it should always be there? Is it something that we just cannot afford to lose? Or I mean, I'm trying to fit, because something like the NHS, isn't it? You say, no,
Yeah.
we don't want to lose that, right? We don't want to go to any other model of paying for it. That is it. But with the BBC, I wonder if it has passed its sell-by date.
I think we'd miss it if it was gone.
Do
That would
you?
be my main.
What would we miss?
I think we would look around at just very commercial, increasingly commercial broadcasters who are going to be trying to scrabble around for the streaming revenue because nobody watches terrestrial television anymore. And I worry we'd think, oh, maybe not everything could be Netflixified. Maybe there should be something that you can get media for free. There should be something where you're not.
But it's not free, is it? People do pay a licence fee for it.
It's £174.50
£174.50 now. And many people will not use the BBC at all, but still have to pay that
because they watch
something,
a live broadcast.
Yeah, which is really wrong, actually.
I think the licence fee that's what's going to be past its best. I don't know how it would be funded. I'm sure there will be a state broadcaster. I'm sure the BBC will exist. But the idea of the licence fee and the
But
TV
should it just be
vans.
I mean, the thing is that when you talk about trust in the BBC, I would have said that I trusted its news reports. But then recently I find myself not double checking it, but certainly thinking about the BBC. Well, you know, when they've made such crass mistakes with not calling Hamas terrorists and with not, you know, not being honest about it. And I just think there is a bias there. There's definitely a social bias within the BBC. I've worked at the BBC. And I mean, I only worked there for about five and a half years. There are people, my dad was a BBC man, my brother was a BBC man, and it certainly is not the same BBC as it was when both those, they were in the BBC. I didn't go to the BBC until I think both of them had left. Oh no, Andrew was still there.
So it's your fault.
It's my fault. Because I wouldn't go to the BBC while my father was still alive, because I didn't want it to look like nepotism, and it wasn't. But it's changed, I think. And I wonder if there's an argument for saying, look, if we strip the BBC back to being a news organisation only, because radio is sort of, they've decimated local radio. Local radio was the only really good thing about the BBC. It mattered. It mattered, and it matters to people. Local radio is incredibly important, but they're killing that. They're absolutely killing it.
And this is what I think I mean when I say we'd miss it when it was gone. I don't think that you can fund local radio, or the language services in particular, which I think are very valuable to the BBC, but because they aren't particularly lucrative or profitable, nothing other than the BBC would ever do it. Nobody's going to. No private equity backed Netflix alike is going to start BBC Radio Kent, because it's always going to be a loss making.
Yes, but that ties into the argument though, because the BBC isn't doing that anymore.
No, exactly. I think to justify their ongoing existence, they need to do more of this lossive kind of, we're doing this because it's the right thing to do, rather than because it gets great numbers, and because I think they're, like everybody, the media cannot handle analytics. So they're chasing numbers. They want everything to be the green number to be going up.
Which is a terrible mistake.
It has destroyed the media and, in my view, democracy. I think the whole thing, if by giving media producers the ability to see in a granular level who was reading what content, the snake eats itself. And I think that's.
And we have a worm here.
Do you?
It's called the worm here.
Oh, on the screen over.
Yeah. Which tells you minute by minute who's
listening. Yeah.
And I think that is. I had an argument with not an argument, a discussion with somebody the other day. Who goes, oh no, you've got to watch the snake, and if people like what you're talking about, like Meghan Markle, give them more of that. And I said I think that's where the mistake is. I said people love my dog Humphrey. Right, I could, if I brought Humphrey in every single day, and just sat him in front of the camera and you know, all of that kind of thing, that would be great for numbers. It's not great radio or television though, and that I find a really difficult argument to make. But but you get the numbers. But that doesn't make it great. But if more people like it, then it means it's great. But it doesn't mean
that's
it's great.
The discussion that's happening in every single newspaper, magazine, radio station, everywhere. It's that editorial discussion of some bean counter saying we need to do more of this because it makes the green number go up. And I think that's where someone at the BBC needs to be absolutely clear. And I think they do a bit of it. They do recognise that they need to have BBC Radio Suffolk doing a morning zoo because that's what some people like, even though actually, yes, they could just talk about Meghan Markle for that entire segment and they'd get more listeners, but that's still the wrong thing to do. And I think that as soon as you start trying to fund things through advertising, and obviously the bigger your audience, the more money you get from advertising, as soon as that is your business model, then you can't say to shareholders, I'm going to do the less profitable thing because I think it's right. That's always going to be a losing argument. So there has to be some gap, there has to be a buffer, you have to insulate the business from the editorial decisions. And I think commercial broadcast just can't do that. Like you say, you've got the snake. The more listeners you have,
it's a worm.
Exactly.
Not even a snake.
It's just a worm.
It's just a worm.
Slightly pessimistic, actually.
It's a worm.
Consult the worm.
That wiggles.
The least fearsome animal.
The least scary creature in the world.
But I think the BBC is the closest to getting it. At the moment, they are, I think, losing their way a little bit. But then they're running out of cash, and they also have an obligation to. I can't remember what the words are, but inform, entertain,
Yeah, but I wonder if
else?
maybe we don't need them to entertain anymore.
Maybe that's it.
That we don't need a BBC sitcom or a BBC, I don't know, costume. Well, they stopped doing costume dramas because they can't afford them.
Yeah, too expensive.
So
the
they've
costumes
moved on to
and the fancy
other
cars.
things.
There's a lot of dross.
There's a lot of dross.
But then there is also, it's dross to me, but somebody else might see me watching the news and think, why are you doing that?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's different strokes for different folks, and we are a nation, a very broad, spectrum of viewers.
I just think it's such a shame what they did with local radio.
Local radio is incredibly important, and the World Service, I think, is incredibly important. I think that the language service.
I mean, I did a bit at Kent. I did a couple of shows at Essex. I did a few. BBC Radio London was my main one.
Sure.
And BBC Wales, which is national. It's a national radio station. It's not a local.
But are there local radio stations in Wales?
No, there's just BBC Radio.
Is that Welsh language?
No.
A bits Welsh language?
There is a Welsh. I think there is a Welsh language. No, obviously I spoke English.
Sure, fine.
But I had to have special clearance
to go to Wales.
Yeah, to work in Wales because I wasn't Welsh. So I had to be hired under DEI or something.
Really?
Yeah.
You were a minority.
I was a diversity hire.
Had to take your passport and everything. Yeah.
Because I wasn't Welsh, and that's fair enough, But I really love work. I love the Welsh.
Was that based in Cardiff?
Yeah.
And they were moving. The BBC was moving stuff out to Cardiff and to Manchester.
But BBC Radio Wales was great, and the Welsh audience are just the absolute best.
Really?
Yeah, really. Because I wasn't Welsh, I was expecting a huge sort of backlash and everything. But no, they were absolutely brilliant, really supportive.
Up there in the valleys, listening in.
It was great. It was lovely. I honestly never had a more appreciative audience.
Really?
Yeah. Really, really
That's
sweet.
Interesting.
Really nice.
But I think that possibly reflects the fact a lot of Wales is quite rural and radio matters a lot.
It matters a lot. It does make a difference. Yeah, really, really does. But it also does. You've got the older generation. When I did stuff at BBC Kent, there was a photograph in front of the microphone of this old couple that they had identified as being the audience. This was the image of your audience. This is who your audience is.
Interesting.
Your Kentish couple.
Yeah.
So that was also quite interesting, and the newsroom would be quite interesting when there'd be some huge story, and yet the editor was arguing for the biggest cabbage that had been grown in the area for the last 50 years should be the lead.
Yeah.
And it would be like, I'd be going, no, what the heck, no.
Yeah. And then Poland got invaded or something, and actually, no, but look at it.
It was incredibly, and it still is incredibly important, and it's been decimated by the BBC, and I think it'll be their downfall, and it should be.
I think that's the risk, is that they take too many of those spreadsheet-based
and they've
decisions.
taken all those presenters who are all local people, all love their job, all do it for cheap. I mean, they're not paid a lot. I know what they're paid, and they're not paid a lot for
and they have a real fan base. Like genuine.
Proper. Yeah.
And because they're there
and they've
for
been
ages.
there for 20, 30 years, 40 years, doing the same show. I went in and did sort of cover shows for a month or 2 months or whatever. But no, they were, and they're so dedicated.
Yeah.
I just thought it was a disgrace. Actually.
I think that's the other problem, is that you've got to know what you have. But then I don't know if the BBC is going into these decisions thinking we don't value this very much, or whether they're just shrinking and shrinking and shrinking.
They find it. They don't. I can tell you, they do not value.
Really?
Yeah. They do not. There were so many discussions from all these bosses about what we're trying to do this with local radio. They were embarrassed by it. They didn't like it. It didn't quite fit. These new young executives coming through were going, oh, it's all a bit, it's all a bit embarrassing. The local people talking about the market, or a bit of graffiti on a street that nobody's ever heard of, but is known really well in the area.
Yeah.
They hated it.
Yeah.
And it was obvious they were really sniffy about it and really snippy about it.
But often,
and I can say that, having been at those meetings.
It is often the really dowdy stuff that is so important. I started off on local papers, and so much of it is a bit cringe and local, and why are you bickering about bins? But that's important. Because to me, I don't care what happens about bins in Margate, but if you're in Margate, that's important.
Yeah.
And one day I'll be complaining about bins to the local paper.
Yeah.
I think it's so scruffy, and I guess to a casual observer, to somebody coming in straight from their masters at a very good university, you go to the Kent Messenger, which is where I started, and think this is all dowdy and parochial. But actually, and
that's actually another point, is that these are incredibly important training grounds.
Oh yeah.
For journalists and for broadcasters and for producers.
Well, hospital radio died as well, and where else?
That was a massive training place for people.
Yeah.
I think it's really sad what they're doing to the BBC.
And we will feel that further down the line. I think the lack of funding. Although the BBC does do some local journalism. They've invested a little bit in local.
A little bit, yeah.
I mean, it's probably a fiver, but it's probably pretty token. But without that, you do just make it impossible to join the industry.
Yeah, there's no way in unless you've got contacts.
The contacts or the money to work for free for multiple years.
Yeah.
And of course, that's a self-fulfilling problem, because you end up with lots of wedged Londoners joining the industry and thinking, well, why are we paying for somebody to attend the vegetable prize giving?
Absolutely right. That's what happens, and this is the problem with the BBC here in London, is it hires in its own image.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
So they're all sort of stuck up and to have their own idea. They're going to change the world. They're going to reshape the wheel, and it's kind of like you don't need to.
This is precisely the problem. I've witnessed this in newspapers, magazines. Lots of young, thrusting, very well-intentioned people coming into an established.
Who don't get it.
Often, just why don't reinvent the wheel? Don't pivot to video. Yeah. We're doing something. We have done something since the 1840s, and it works quite well. Let's keep doing the same thing. We don't need to have a Snapchat department.
Yeah.
What we need is to invest in the business desk, and all these. There is a route forward that doesn't involve any razzmatazz. It's not interesting. You don't get to cut a ribbon on anything, but you've just got to make the iterative improvements that the business needs.
Yeah.
And I think that's it's not appealing. If you're a new manager, you want to do something big and bombastic, but actually what you probably need to do is
just leave well alone.
Leave alone, or just turn up and say, what do you guys need? And it's probably just like a new coffee machine. And like the pool car's got a slow flat, and that's the kind of thing, and everything else is just kind of ticking over. And I'm thinking of BBC Radio Kent in particular, but back I grew up in Kent, and they used to be in Victor FM and BBC Radio Kent were the two biggest stations, and KM FM, which was the local newspaper, had an independent radio station. In Victor FM, just got subsumed by Heart. You remember when Heart took over all the local stations? Yeah. And that went. I remember James Hemming used to be in the morning.
Now they have one presenter do a breakfast show across the whole nation.
Exactly, and that's not really.
And that's not what people want.
It's not what people. Isn't. It's not a morning. Unless you're getting phone-ins from people in the next village. It's kind of because you can go to Radio 2 for that. Yeah. If you want to have a national programme, and it's just a shame.
I agree, and I think they've really blown it, and I think that will come back to bite them, because that is what they're meant to be doing.
It's a very short-sighted decision.
I agree.
But then I don't know. For all I know, they could be thinking we've got to cut something, but if we cut the game shows, people will kick off more. I don't know.
Right, the Washington Post. Let's have a look at that for Tuesday. MAGA faithfuls' disquiet grows. Outcry builds over Ukraine and Epstein. In fact, it's the Epstein story, isn't it, that is making MAGA really cross.
Do you think that this could be Trump's downfall? What do you think?
Many people are. I don't think it will, but I do think that unless he fires someone, he or somehow casts the blame somewhere else, this will really damage him. It already is damaging him.
Well, but I mean, is he undamageable? Is he just completely impervious to any form of criticism? To me, this feels like something that isn't just going away. Everything else he's done that's awful has been immediately eclipsed by something else awful.
Yeah, that's true.
And that in turn gets eclipsed. But this has been in the news for a couple of weeks now, and doesn't seem to be going away, because he was embarrassing himself at the football 2 days ago, and then he's said that Ukraine can't have any more guns. There've been enough scandals if Obama wearing a tan suit was in the news for a week back then, Trump does that every couple of hours. Yeah. But this seems to have stuck.
This seems to stick, and this is the fury that MAGA have, because he promised that he would release the all of the Epstein files, and since then the FBI and Kash Patel, which is his hire, and Pam Bondi have both gone, oh no, there wasn't a list. Yeah. And her having already said that it was on her desk, and a lot of people are saying, but if you're not in the files, then why don't you just release them? Yeah. And a lot of people are very upset by this.
I think a lot of people were looking forward to it as totemic of a wider sense of justice, draining the swamp. He didn't really run with that, but this idea that the institution, the establishment is withholding information, and I'm the outsider. I'm going to stick it to the man.
Well, they thought that the Democrats were sitting on it as well, didn't they? They thought, well, the Democrats won't release it because they're in the files. Yeah. And now it's been handed on, and now the Republicans won't release either. And I don't believe there is nothing to see here.
No, but then, because why would she be in jail if there were no clients?
Well, exactly.
I think there is,
Ghislaine Maxwell should be released immediately.
If there is no little black book. But then at the same time, I think it was all bluster when they were saying, yes, the files are on my desk. That probably wasn't true either. There probably isn't a physical little black book. There's probably just variously useful evidence.
I just wonder what damage this will do him in the long term. If it doesn't go away soon, he's going to have to do something.
Well, he'll just do something awful to distract everybody from it, I assume.
Yeah. Well, that is one way of doing it.
That's been his MO. Yeah. Pretty much.
Move quickly.
Move quickly and just keep building on sand, basically. I mean, I think maybe one day that will just run out of steam.
Maybe. We'll wait and see. Right, we've got to take a quick break. Back in a sec. Hello there, this is Talk, and it's Petrie, and with me in the studio is Ed Wiseman, and we're going through Tuesday's papers. Let's start with the Mirror. Okay, the Mirror. Sacked Greg, I won't be the last.
Safe to assume, seeing as this happens every couple of months.
Yeah. And co-host Terode is accused of a racist jibe.
Yeah, I didn't read that to find out what the actual racist jibe was.
I wonder if they... Oh, it's on the front page of The Sun, apparently. Let's have a look. There it is. BBC told John to step back over racist remark. The BBC asked John Terode to resign from MasterChef after he was accused of racism, it was claimed last night. Oh dear. It comes as a report yesterday upheld 45 of 83 allegations of bad behaviour against his co-host Greg Wallace, who was axed last week. The dossier also upheld a complaint that an unnamed person used a racial phrase once several years ago. Last night, Terode confirmed to The Sun it referred to him, but said, I have absolutely no recollection of this. I do not believe that it happened. The source said the BBC called John and asked him to step back.
I mean, it's hardly news of the century.
I just wonder if it was look, racist comments are not acceptable at all, but if it was years ago, and also the whole thing with Greg Wallace is that he was threatened with being fired in 2019, and since then I think there's only been one complaint against. Most of his complaints were before
Pre-2019.
2019. Yeah. Look, I don't stand by Greg Wallace, but
no.
That's him done now.
Yeah.
He won't work again in broadcasting.
No, I don't think so. He'll probably do a cookbook in 5 years or something.
I don't even think he'll get a publisher.
You don't even think that?
No.
I don't know. People do bounce back.
I don't know these days.
Well,
whether
Hollywood they do. I don't know if they do on TV.
Yeah, I don't know whether they do.
Maybe he'll go and show his bum off on Channel 5.
Yeah, he'll end up in the jungle, won't he? Or doing something like that.
Yes, maybe something like that. But I mean, 2 years. I reckon 2 years he'll be on a rehabilitation tour.
Do you think?
I reckon. Because he's that kind of guy. He's not going
to go quietly.
No,
into
exactly.
the night.
He's not to retire with dignity to the Surrey Hills.
No.
He's going to get his story across, and then he's going to, rattle cages, and then he's going to be.
Maybe he'll do all the Big Brother and the other things in a couple of years'
Or
time.
setting the record straight on a desert island.
Yeah, maybe.
Huffing on a Lost Mary. That was a low for TV.
That was Philip Schofield, wasn't it? Yeah.
That was. I don't know. I feel as though that was.
Well, that didn't do him any good.
It didn't do him that much harm either. He's still got the gig.
Yeah, I know, but he's not coming back to broadcasting anytime.
No, I don't think he is. I wonder what his next step will be.
Well,
I wonder what
and Philip's crimes were to secretly date a much younger man.
Yeah.
The only person he committed that crime against really was his wife.
Yes.
So, and he's still not going to be forgiven, and I actually think that's a little bit unfair. But
I mean, there were lots of complexities to that, weren't there?
Yeah, but it.
This feels a bit more just a pattern of like slight gross behaviour.
Yeah. And if that's enough to get you fired now, and John Turode needs to watch out, because obviously the papers will be looking for their next scalp.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be John Turode, because he's somehow way less big. Yeah. He's not as big. He's not as famous as Greg Wallace.
Yeah, I guess.
It doesn't have as far to fall. Greg Wallace, big name, kind of a household name, did the stuff that he was alleged to have done. John Turode saying something racist 10 years ago.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't care as much.
What about, do you care about Rachel Reeves saying, I won't raise your taxes?
Care is probably a strong word, because I think that she probably will.
Yes.
And
I do too.
I think that if that was the case, if that was genuinely the case, you know what, actually, the reason why I don't care is because taxes are kind of the least of anyone's worries at the moment. If the cost of living is increasing but taxes stay the same, I don't know. I feel as though that's not really the issue.
No.
The issue is more that you can't really afford stuff.
Well, the Daily Express then goes on to say Tories accuse Reeves of planning a blitz on hard-working middle classes in the budget.
What is the middle class?
I don't know. Next tax raid will pick the pockets of the grafters. I mean, I thought when they're talking about a wealth tax, that's not the middle classes they're talking about.
Well, that's the thing, but who is middle class?
Yeah, I know.
Because some middle class people are wedged. Some people, if you have a £2 million house in Bromley, you're probably still middle class, aren't you? Probably.
If you're working for a living.
If you're working for a living.
Yeah.
Even if you work in some shadowy AI startup, or you work for the civil service or whatever, or as a BBC Mandarin telling people how to close local radio stations. If you have a £2.6 million property, 5 bedrooms, somewhere in the burbs, is that upper class? At what point do you leave the middle class and become upper class, and therefore?
But at what point are you rich? Because I remember Jeremy Corbyn saying anybody earning over £70,000 a year was rich.
Sure.
So it depends where they set the bar.
Was
isn't
that
it,
the
of
MP's
wealth?
salary? Was that an MP's rough salary at the time?
It was roughly about 74 grand, wasn't it?
Yeah, because it's like 90 odd now, isn't it?
Yeah, it's nearly 100 now.
I'd consider that to be rich in the big scheme of things. You're in I assume, the top % of global earners, probably, if you're on 100 grand.
Yeah, but I suppose it depends where you live as well.
If you live in central London, it doesn't go particularly far.
No.
But I don't think anybody would.
But she did promise
100,000.
no worker, but they couldn't quite figure out what a worker was.
Yeah,
could they,
precisely.
either?
And that's the thing. We don't know what a worker is. We don't know what middle class is. We certainly don't know what a grafter is.
No.
Like, none of this actually makes sense. I think that's why I don't care when they say stuff, because it's not, none of the words.
And
have
it's a
any
long
meaning.
time till October as well, so many things could change.
Many such nothings can be uttered.
Yeah.
But no, I don't. I also, what do people genuinely think is going to happen apart from an increase in taxes?
Yeah, there has to be.
That's the other thing.
We are broke.
Kind of broke.
Yeah.
Grafter or not. Are you a grafter?
No.
You're not a grafter.
No, I wouldn't say I was a
So
grafter.
you're fair game.
Yeah. No, they're going to pick the pockets of the grafters, but I'm not a grafter.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
So you think that's a get out? Do no work. Do no graft.
I'm lazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you won't get
taxed.
You won't get pickpocketed by the by the government.
I think that's the way we should all be doing it, actually.
I mean, you say that, but the people who have you been to Portugal?
No.
You know, when you go to Portugal and you just see some guy having a beer at 2 p.m. and you think you have made all of the right decisions in life. You're sitting in the sun. Later on, you're going to go and eat some fish, and you're contributing very little to the economy, but you are having a far nicer life than anybody who is. Yeah, I think maybe that's what you should do. Maybe we should just all
move to Portugal.
Kind
and drink
of,
beer
yeah.
at 2 o'clock.
Yeah.
Great, wouldn't it? Quick break. Back in a sec. Hello there, this is Talk and it's Petrie with you and with me, Ed Wiseman, going through the papers for Tuesday. The Times are pushing the story again. Ministers questions faith in BBC boss. This is Tim Davie. Lisa Nandy, I don't think Tim Davie can survive, can he?
Hard to tell. I mean, who's next? Do you know if there's a shoe-in?
Oh, I don't know. Who knows these days? I mean, whoever they are, they'll be on 600 grand a year or whatever. I'd do it. Right. Aristocrat's daughter guilty over baby death. This is the daughter of the aristocrat who's been convicted alongside her boyfriend of killing their newborn baby while on the run from the police. Constance Martin, 38, sparked a nationwide manhunt, which I remember very well, after police discovered she secretly gave birth before disappearing, and they tragically found the baby in a carrier bag of some description. I think on an allotment, I seem to remember.
Camping. They were in a tent.
Yeah.
Or something.
They've now been found guilty of the gross negligence manslaughter, which seems fair enough, really.
That was a weird story.
Really was weird.
Didn't really get it. Also, not a grafter, an aristocrat.
Yeah.
A rare example of someone who was not middle class.
But she'd had 4 other children, I think, and they were taken away from her, and she said that she was worried about her new baby being taken away from her, I believe. I can't remember all the details, but it's something akin to this. And look, something as a travel journalist, new grant to push sales of electric cars.
Yes. 3,750 quid is not going to cut it. I can tell you that for free.
How much is the average electric?
Over 30.
Oh wow!
So it's I mean, I don't know what the exact figure is now, but it's like 30-something grand, which is actually, that's just what a car costs now. You know,
30 grand.
It's a lot. I think, but I think yeah, you can't really get very much electric car for less than that, and so that's, especially as it's only for new cars. Who buys new cars? You know, if you're strapped for cash, you're probably not going to be that motivated by quite a small amount.
No, I mean, that's the thing. If you can afford 37 grand, which is the price that they're set it at, under 37 grand, for a new car, I'm not sure that 3,700 will 10% discount is going to help.
It's an incentive.
Is it though?
In the same way that, strawberries are 10% off in Tesco's. You think, oh yeah, maybe. But it's not going to, it's not going to change my if I'm already, if I'm looking at cars that cost £5,000, because that's how a lot of people buy cars. You buy a second-hand car, it's 5-10 grand, you run it for a few years and try and get rid of it before it goes bang. That is where most of the UK is at right now.
Yeah, I couldn't afford to spend 37 grand on a electric car.
And
no
I think,
chance.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. They have to do something, but that really isn't.
No.
That really isn't it. I think what they should do, and what a lot of countries are talking about doing, France does it, is social leasing for EVs. France does it for French electric cars, I think, only because that's the way they roll. You can get a very discounted lease, pay monthly. To rent or to lease this car, and it's particularly aimed at people out in the countryside who do need a car, but who can't afford to get on the EV ladder just yet because they're still tooling around in a knackered old 2CV or whatever. And so being able to afford an electric car for 100 or 150 euros a month is quite a big difference. That would be a terrific idea, and obviously out there it also increases the sale and the profitability of it. French-made electric car, so it's a win-win.
Yeah, that's a really good idea, actually.
Well, we won't do that.
We won't, of course, because it's a good idea.
We're going to make some token suggestion that 3,750.
Rich people will benefit from.
Yes, rich people will think, oh, that's nice, that's lovely.
That's lunch.
Yeah, exactly.
I can go to a Michelin-starred restaurant with that 3 grand.
For 3,750, I can buy 1 beer and 1 packet of crisps at my local pub. Just 15,474 pure electric cars were registered in 2018, and that's 381,970 last year. So they are increasing in supply. There's a lot.
No, nobody's going to buy them until they're about 12 grand.
I think that will be a big, under 20. Once they reach parity with with petrol cars, I think that will be a huge game changer. Isn't the Chinese market doing more? Yes, the Chinese, and this is the other problem. This is the problem that that the European car manufacturers are facing. They've been chasing this high-end stuff, talking about the BBC making weird decisions and getting rid of the stuff that actually matters. The European car market has all fought over the high-end electric car market, so expensive stuff. They make more money by building big, expensive SUVs that happen to be electric. Much easier to build an electric SUV, incidentally, because of the weight. Lots of reasons why they took that route. And China is now coming in with a BYD Dolphin or whatever, like lots of the funky cats, lots of stupid names, but they're really affordable. And there's a reason why every Uber driver drives an MG. Chinese made, costs nothing, undercuts European competitors by 10 grand.
Wow.
And of course people are going to go for that. It doesn't matter that Audi has all this heritage and brand loyalty.
No, it doesn't.
People just want to get something cheap from A to B. And I think that's another problem that we're facing. We're going to have to really ask ourselves questions. Do we want to become completely dependent on Chinese manufacturing and expertise, and in particular batteries, because they're very good at batteries, or do we want to try to fight that with some homegrown
which will
manufacturing?
Be expensive.
Which will be expensive. And also, what European manufacturers are going to want to bring the fight to Shenzhen, where they're churning out these EVs that cost nothing. Dacia's building one. The Dacia Spring, I think, is 15 grand.
It's really difficult, isn't it? If they want us to have this net zero, they're going to have to make it more affordable. But like you said, there are lots of issues there.
The only way to make it affordable is to buy it from China.
Yeah.
Or Romania, but it's the same business. I think it's we're going to have to collectively, as a, are we going to base our entire net zero environmental movement on Chinese technology or not? If not,
well, we can only afford to do it that way.
Yeah, precisely. Precisely.
Let's have a look at The Guardian. The Guardian says Trump issues warning to Putin as he does deal with NATO to arm Kyiv. We don't really know much.
Trump's issued a lot of warnings to Putin.
Yeah.
Hasn't he just given him another couple of weeks to...
He's given him another 50 days.
50 days, yeah.
Which is, a month and a half. To talk peace, which I can't see that happening, but they've done a deal. He's done a deal to sell weapons to NATO, and NATO will then give them to Ukraine.
Cool, that will do the trick.
But we don't know what weapons yet. So he's just saying we'll send them lots of types of weapons, but we don't know if they're attack weapons or just defensive weapons. And that is a really important distinction to make at the moment.
He said it's everything, it's Patriots, it's all of them, it's a full complement with the batteries.
Yeah, but it doesn't tell us what.
No, exactly.
I don't suppose he knows either, to be fair.
No, we'll send them a lot of weapons of all kinds, and they're going to deliver those weapons immediately to the side of the war. None of it really. I mean, I don't know why I'm reading it.
It doesn't really make.
It doesn't really make very.
It doesn't
much
make any
sense.
sense. And anyway, it's 50 days is a long time with Trump.
50 days is a long time, and also he can just say another 50 days.
Yeah, exactly.
He hasn't really been holding Russia accountable.
No, he has not. The Telegraph are going with the same lead. Trump threatens China over Russian oil. This is 100% tariff, although it was originally discussed 500% tariffs, but now it's 100% tariff if China continues to buy Russian oil. But there are members of NATO that still buy Russian oil and gas, even though we're supposed to not be dealing with...
Sneaking into Europe as well.
Yeah,
I mean,
Germany are totally reliant on it. They can't live without it at the moment. And China, of course, and also Trump has got a lot of ghost ships and things that are working to sneak oil out of Russia, and it's a big enough landmass that you can do that without being watched. So it's an easy.
And even if they do get found, what's going to happen?
Yeah, exactly that.
There are plenty of journalists and sort of watching the satellite footage of all these dodgy ships. Yeah. Trading oil in the middle of the ocean and gas, and it's sort of we know it's happening.
What can we do about it?
And some of it's pulling up in Brussels, in Belgium. It's not all being siphoned off in jerry cans. Some of it is just turning up and being put into the European network.
Yeah, of course it is.
Which is quite horrifying when you think about how...
Well, it's feeding the war machine.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, it's horrific. I can't really read this on the front of the Telegraph, but it says, ban trans women or face court, sports are told. Women's sports have been told they will face legal action if they fail to ban trans players. There you go. Sharon Davies, who's the former Olympic swimmer, she's been fighting this good fight, hasn't she?
I think the Telegraph has been the main one covering the trans...
To keeping trans women out of female sport.
That's been pretty much it. But because that was big news about a year ago. That was huge. Yeah. Park run, get rid of times or something. They stopped doing timed segments because anybody could run in the women's section. There was something like that. I can't really remember it. Obviously, I don't.
There's never an argument about trans men going into men's sports, is there?
Well, I read somewhere that men's sports are in fact just open. Anybody can do. Anybody can.
Because if you're a trans man, presumably you haven't gone through male puberty. You're not going to steal from a man.
No, you'll probably suck. So
you probably won't be as good as in that.
Depending on the sport. Yeah. I do wonder, I mean, as an outsider, I wonder why this is a conversation to be had in chess, which it is, and fishing, I think, also has had this debate. I don't know if experiencing male puberty makes them predisposed to being better at a board game.
No, I agree with you on that.
Fishing, I think, is probably a feat of strength to some extent, but
possibly,
not the fish they catch. Competitive fishing is very rarely like wrestling a shark. Yeah, it's not. I'm sure it's difficult, but they're not. I reckon.
Yeah, it's like things like darts or pool or things like that.
Well, darts in particular, because those guys are not in fine shape a lot of the time. You feel as though male.
It isn't segregated. Oh, darts isn't segregated.
Darts isn't. Okay, fine.
Okay, that's good.
You just any beer gut. Yeah, I feel as though decades of just drinking Peronis.
No,
and
I'm
smoking
with you.
Romas
I don't think that it's only where strength it could be an issue.
Yeah. But I'm sure
which is only fair.
Somebody will come in and say that actually fishing and strength, I don't know.
Oh, maybe, but
maybe.
Definitely not with chess.
Definitely not with chess.
Definitely not with chess.
Are there mixed? Is there mixed chess?
I don't know.
Is chess
It must
not
be
just
mixed. I can't believe it isn't. Quick break, and then Ed and I will be back in just one moment.
So you basically said it's.
That's all right. We were just talking about the banks, actually. Yeah. Now, it's Petrie here, and with me, Ed Wiseman.
Hello.
And we're going through the papers for Tuesday. We were both discussing, actually, that it's a bit of a poor showing on the papers, actually.
We were grumbling about that.
We were much. The Daily Star, what confused Cole Palmer, what's Trump doing? This is when Trump handed over the cup to Chelsea. I don't know if you've seen the footage, and they've tried to get him off the stage at one point, Trump that is, and then the FIFA boss had to come along and push him to the back of the lads celebrating. It was embarrassing.
So such a weird guy, really weird guy.
He just wanted to be there dancing and celebrating a win that he had literally nothing to do with.
Doesn't really know who these people are.
No. But also on the front of the Star, we've got the new Harry Potter, a photograph there, the whiz kid Potter, and BBC, Our Blunder, and Oasis gig Terror Plot.
Yes, and as I just said, it sounds like headlines from about 1998.
Yeah.
All of this could have happened. Apart from Trump, it's the same old stuff.
It is the same old stuff. It's really interesting.
How worried are you for the future of the new Harry Potter kids? I'm kind of. Yeah. I'm a little bit on edge. Just think, what?
They've got 8 years, haven't they?
Yeah.
8 seasons they're making.
8 long years.
8 long years. Well, they'll make a fortune.
Somebody will make a fortune. Do they get to keep their fortunes?
Probably.
Or is it all going to get frittered away on their sort of legal guardians' meth
and their teachers
and something? I don't know. The whole thing I just worry. I worry. I really worry. I'm sure everything's fine. I hope everybody's having fun. But I do look at that kid and think, you have no idea.
Well, you have no idea what's
what
going to happen
fresh
to you.
hell
And
is
also
gonna be.
the fresh hell of being compared every day to Daniel
Radcliffe.
And the TV series being,
A lower budget
likened
inherently than the...
Yeah, it's HBO, isn't it?
Yeah.
But Nick Frost is playing Hagrid.
Yes.
Which is a brilliant choice.
Yes,
So,
I think so.
I'd watch it for him.
I think Nick Frost is very good.
He is brilliant. And I think he will do a marvellous job of that part.
Yes.
The Independent, a guilty aristocrat. A lot of the papers covering that. The Metro as well. Arrogance of monster parents. And the FT... Trump's threats again on Russia, and investment banking set to extend lean streak as trading desks milk volatility.
Yes.
So what have you found in the papers today?
Today's
Front page,
papers.
Not very inspiring.
I thought something that may shock you to your core, Petrie, because you are a garden haver.
Yeah.
Lock up your Japanese maple trees is the headline. Plant theft is growing. You see what they did there? And 2/3 of gardeners have been victims, which can't possibly be true. But nevertheless, they put it in the stand first. Eddie McDonald asks what can be done to foil the thieves. I think
they're stealing azaleas as well. Am I right? And lemon trees.
Yes.
Neither of which I have.
That's the. I don't think azaleas are ranked in the top 10. Lemon trees are third of the top 10 most stolen in this box out, which may or may not be in order. I could be wrong. Japanese maple trees.
They are pretty.
Are very pretty, and can apparently be worth thousands of pounds. There's one in not particularly good condition quite near my flat. There's an Acer that needs a lot of water, I think. Peonies, slow growing and tricky to propagate, rare forms can sell for more than £200.
So people are literally going into. So if somebody offers me a plant for cheap, chances are it's stolen.
I mean, I don't know. Plant theft is growing, and 2/3 of gardeners have been victims.
2/3
I
of
don't
gardeners.
think that's true, unless people are just grabbing. Like I've must admit, I have taken a snippet of rosemary off a hedge before.
I think that's all right.
I think that's all right.
I think
that's kind of fine. And like blackberries, I think are fair game.
Yeah, blackberries are fair. Well, not if they're in somebody's garden.
Not if they're in somebody's garden, but
No.
if it's like if you can reach it from the pavement, if it's just a hedge. But no, I can't. I can't imagine
believe that and it's mostly in London, isn't it? I think I read.
Well, everything is mostly in London.
Yeah, that's true. But how are people getting into people's gardens? I would be upset if they stole my banana trees.
I guess a lot of it will be anything that's in a pot outside. Somebody can just go walkies.
I used to have, in my old house, I would have because I lived in a mews, and so it was all very pretty, and I had a hanging basket that I put up one time. That was gone.
Yeah, that went missing.
That went missing on Mother's Day.
Oh, really?
So somebody nicked that for them.
Somebody thought, this will really smooth things over. Thanks for the gift of life, Mum.
Well, it was nice. I hope she appreciates it.
Yeah, actually, like maybe.
I wasn't that upset by it. But I mean, I don't think anyone could get into my back garden. Anyway.
Do you have any valuable trees?
No, I don't think so. Well, it depends.
Bonsai trees. A 50-year-old bonsai could be worth £5,000.
Why would that be in your garden, though?
Don't know. Probably the most valuable outdoor plant in terms of value per kilo of weight. It's a very weird way to write that.
Yeah.
This was on page 11.
I mean, if you're going to dig up a tree, a Japanese maple tree, I mean, like you said, unless it's in a pot, I mean, then you're asking for trouble.
Well, like a full...
But you can't do that quietly.
No. But then people do nick all sorts of stuff. People nick whole cars, and that's loud.
Oh, that's true.
And also, I don't know, a lot of people would probably see somebody with a JCB.
I've got plants in my front garden. Nobody's interested in them.
They're obviously not particularly...
They're fern and grasses and stuff like that.
Is it grass? She's got pots of grass.
It's curated.
Nice
grass, not just grass.
I found
proper grass.
Look at this.
Grasses from.
Grasses.
Yeah, grasses.
I see what you mean. Not just.
Like zebra grass or stuff like that.
Doesn't that mean you're a swinger? Which one's the swinger one? I always forget.
Pampas grass.
Pampas grass, fine, sure.
No, I haven't got any
You've got to know your grasses. That's the problem.
Yeah, maybe I'm telling them something that I
Maybe that's
didn't
possibly
even
it. Everyone's
know.
giving you a wide berth because you've got a specific type of. Yeah,
No, it's definitely pampas grass that was
definitely
the
pampas grass.
proved
And you
that
can't
swing.
put that in a pot, really, can you? That's a big. That's it. You've got to put that in the ground.
I'm definitely not going to now.
No, exactly,
Now,
not now.
I'm wondering what I've got planted in the front of my house.
Yeah, you could be signalling all sorts of things to the community. Yeah, it's tricky.
Well, listen, I mean, they're welcome to nick from my front garden. I haven't put anything special there.
No, I don't know. I don't know if I believe. I don't know. If
I don't believe 2/3.
I don't believe a 2/3, and I think it's probably happened once or twice.
Yeah.
No one's going to nick a whole acer. I don't think. Like you'd have to have a digger, wouldn't you? Like an actual tree, and you'd also have to have a customer lined up. That must be being nicked to order.
Yeah, I mean peonies as well. I know. I think that's a lie.
What are the pretty little flowers? There was one that was incredibly rare. It's like a crocus or something. There was one on a golf course, and a policeman had to guard it. There is a small plant that changes hands for millions among collectors.
Well, I need to go and nick that then.
Possibly. I mean, that's the thing.
Yeah.
At that point, would you be a grafter? Would you be?
It would take more work than I normally put into anything
possibly.
else.
You could get taxed.
Well, I'm gonna thank for the criminal advice.
If anybody's listening, it's page 11 of today's Times. You've got the top 10 of plants to nick.
Most stealable plant.
Yeah,
and Kew Gardens isn't far away from me either.
Kew Gardens would be a one-stop shop.
A one-stop shop.
For the discerning plant thief.
I do see old ladies walking around with little pairs of scissors, but that's something a bit different.
Yeah.
Ed, I'm going to have to say
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Ed Wiseman there, though not quite so wise when it comes to crime, I think. Transport and travel journalist. Right, coming up, it's just you and me, and we're talking about the BBC. Oh, that rhymed. So talking about the BBC this morning, and whether you trust it, whether you use it, whether you like it, whether you think it's an institution that we absolutely at any cost must keep going, or has it really outlived its usefulness? Do you think there is a place for the BBC in the market as it is at the moment with so many choices? And if that place is to be there, what should they be doing with it? Local radio, I think, is one of those things. So get ready to give me a call. Back in a sec. Hello there, and a very good morning to you. It is Petrie here with you through until 1 o'clock now. It is the 15th already of July. Summer will be over soon, so you might as well make the most of it. Now, what I want to talk to you about this morning is the BBC. The BBC is, according to Ofcom, losing the public's trust. It is a critical week for the BBC. We've seen the Greg Wallace stuff come out yesterday, wasn't it? Just yesterday, talking about all the things that he'd done wrong and all the things that were upheld against him. There's now talk of John Turode being in trouble for something racist he might have said, although he's denying that. And this was years and years ago anyway. But still, the BBC is under the spotlight. Tim Davie, the boss there, has overseen I think, some pretty awful decisions. And one of them is the loss of local radio. I think that has been a disaster for the BBC. And it's certainly been a disaster for local people who love their local radio. They absolutely adore it. It is so important to them, and it's something that doesn't make profit, it doesn't make money, but is important, and that's what the BBC was meant to be about. We now have a BBC where a lot of people don't trust their news sense when it comes to Israel-Gaza, an incredibly important story of our time. They don't trust the BBC over the people that it employs. Don't forget Jimmy Savile was employed there. Rolf Harris did some work there. Hugh Edwards was their chief guy. He was their big hire. He was their main man. Greg and John, I mean, it's just like, it's never ending. And I can tell you that there are people who work there who are truly, truly horrible people. Presenters, people who I've met who are vile. I mean, literally say the worst things. I won't name names, but there's a female presenter there. And one of my technical operators, when I was at BBC London, brilliant guy, been at the BBC for 100 years, right? Knows everything, knows everyone. And he was asked to go, I'm going to be really careful, he was asked to go and film a trailer for a news TV programme as a sound guy. So he went to do that. And he was holding the boom mic, and it was a very small crew. And this woman, who was vile, is vile, let me tell you, vile. The director said, "Oh, do you want to meet the sound guy?" Just to say, she said, "Why would I want to do that? He's nobody." This is the sort of people we're talking about that are allowed to flourish at the BBC. I mean, it's not only at the BBC. One of my other employers as well allows bullying to go on and all sorts of stuff. These presenters who think that they're more important than they actually are, and that they they think they can do the job on their own. Well, then why have a team? You know, you need people. Just be nice to them. That's my theory anyway. But the BBC is under the spotlight again, and a lot of people are saying we don't need the BBC anymore. We really don't. We've got Netflix, we've got Amazon Prime, we've got all these things that we have to pay for, right? But we also have to pay for the BBC, and it's £174.50 per year now for a colour licence. And a lot of people don't think it's worth the money. So I'm trying to figure out if this is an institution that we can afford to lose, or it's so important to the British way of life that no matter what happens, we need to keep it, right? That it does something so unique and so vital to democracy or to the good of the country that we absolutely should not lose it. Now, I think probably 10 years ago I'd have been that person saying that we absolutely shouldn't lose it. We absolutely need this organisation. I'm not so sure anymore. And that isn't bitterness is just that, having worked in there, started working there about 10 years ago, I just saw how it was run. And I was there broadcasting over the COVID stuff, and it ran perfectly well without all the clipboard Johnnies, all the people that were running around trying to make decisions and let's meet in Terry Wogan, or let's go and sit in the train carriages. I mean, all these things exist at the BBC. It's all absolute nonsense. Oh, we're all meeting in Jill Dando. I mean, anyway, is it a waste of money now, or is it vital? Is it important? Can you find something that you can point to that says, no, we need the BBC no matter what? Give me a call, 0344 499 1000. Do you think that we can afford to let it go? Do you think that it needs to lose its licence fee? Do you think that it needs to fund itself another way? About 68% of all of its money that comes in is from the licence fee payer. It's about £6 billion a year to run. Do we need it? Give me a call, 0344 499 1000. Text the word talk and then your message to 87222. Do we need it? Do we need the drama? Maybe we could hive off the drama. Maybe we could get rid of all of that. Daytime television, all of that stuff, and just do news. Is that all the BBC is good for? Is that what we should keep it for? Give me a call. Tristan is in Bedford. Morning, Tristan.
Morning, Petrie. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I hope you're all right.
Not too bad, thank you.
Good. What do we think about the BBC? I'm just wondering whether the world has sort of moved on.
It's been a waste of money for such a long time, to be honest. I mean, I stopped paying my licence fee back in 2020 during COVID.
Really?
Watching how they were broadcasting things. I was in London the same day when there was quite the it's the crazy Black Lives Matter protest and how it was being broadcast. And then I came home and there was the situation with the horse, if you remember.
Yeah, I
don't know
do.
if you remember. And how they broadcast it, it's like, that didn't happen. Why are you lying? And I was like, I'm done. How I look at things, I give things a certain point. If they keep making mistakes, I'm like, right, I'll give you another chance, and during COVID, how they broadcast things, how they described things, it was just ridiculous. It was so. It was almost like it was fabricated, and I was just like, nah, not interested. So I just refused to renew my license, to be honest with you.
And you don't miss it. I mean, you don't use any of the BBC now. You don't use radio. You don't use television. Do you watch live stuff?
No, I mean, no. As I said to your researcher, I watch things on delay. I mean, I love my sport. I do a lot of trading to do with sport, and I watch that on certain sites. But again, it's on a delay. And the thing is, with the BBC, is they had certain things that I like to watch, but I haven't watched iPlayer or anything like that. I don't watch anything from the mainstream media at all.
Because there was a time, wasn't there? I mean, I don't know how old you are, but it was one of the only channels that we had.
My late 30s.
Oh, so no, not you. You're far too young, Tristan. But
I used to like. I mean, I remember back in the day, I used to love Big Break. I used to watch that on a Saturday night, and Generation Game, and Noel's House Party, and Top of the Pot, all that kind of. I used to like that, and Match of the Day, obviously. I used to like all of that when I was a lot younger. But it's just like, I don't know. They've gone down. Everything has to have an agenda. Even back in the day when they had Panorama, and they used to do things where you had a for and against, and now it's just total agenda all the time. And it's just, I mean, how they broadcast about weather, it's like, oh, it's absolutely so hot out there, and with climate change, it's just so much hyperbole. It's just like, no.
But do you not think that other news organisations are very similar to that?
As I said, a lot of it on the mainstream media, they don't seem to be bothered by, even though they're losing viewers. I mean, for example, I don't know if you the new Superman movie that's coming out, you know, how they're looking to describe the new Superman movie. It's going to put people off. But they don't seem to be bothered by it. They don't seem to be bothered they're losing viewers, or they're losing subscriptions, or they're losing. They seem so, I hate to say it, but they seem so virtuous. It's like we think we're doing the right thing, so we'll carry on. We're not bothered that we're losing people. We're not bothered that we're not taking people. We'll just carry on. And the whole situation with the whole Gaza conflict and everything. I mean, you know, obviously that's a huge story. But the thing is they go down one angle and they just go straight down, and then what happens is they double down on it all the time. And then when something does happen, then it's like they don't seem to get any comeuppance or any sort of consequence for it. I mean, obviously what happened with Hugh Edwards, for example, why didn't he go to jail? I would have gone to jail. If it was me, I would have gone to jail. Why did he go to jail?
Extraordinary. Suspended sentence. I mean, I couldn't agree more with you. But it's also the fact that big institutions like the BBC, they do protect people. I mean, look at Jimmy Savile.
But the thing
worst
is,
of
it
the
shouldn't be
worst.
like that, should it? I mean, Lady Justice is blind. I mean, if I did obviously the situation with Greg Wallace at the moment, if I at work and I'm, you know, start saying things to my colleagues and stuff, I'm going to get fired. They'll sack me straight away. There won't be any sort of like, oh, we'll give you another chance. Don't worry, Tristan. It doesn't work like that. You know, and it seems like they seem to give them so many chances, and then when something does happen, which it usually seems to, then it's like it's brushed under the carpet, or it's totally accepted. And the thing is the amazing government that we have, when they ever bring up anything that something to do with the BBC, they never condemn it. They always have to make excuses for it. And the thing is, if you can't make excuses for something, then you're basically saying, oh, that's acceptable. That's okay. They've got rid of that person, so it's fine. Well, no, it's not. Hugh Edwards should have gone to jail. As I said, I would have gone to jail. You know,
yeah, there was a tendency at one point to believe the BBC was too big to fail, that it was too important to be allowed to fail, and there have been, you know, many scandals. There have been many NDAs signed. There are many people that work there to this very day who are, I'm telling you, truly horrible people, earning a heck of a lot of money, treating people that they work with like dirt, which is not something I would tolerate. But you don't get very far being a nice guy in this business.
No, but the thing is, though, is if you have a without prejudice conversation or a non-disclosure agreement, it's like, you know, it's like it's brushed under the
It totally is. Totally is. There are people who should be fired who are still working and will continue to work and get paid big fat salaries until the point where you can't ignore it anymore. And that's not the way it should be.
No, but the problem is as you said, eventually it gets to a point where there'll be a limit, or obviously karma gets involved. Those are the two things. But obviously, when you have a without prejudice conversation or a non-disclosure agreement, it's like, well, that's acceptable. You know, we'll allow that because of, you know, for whatever reason, they are accepted to leave, but they're still getting their big fat pension, obviously, out of it. You know,
yeah, certainly the BBC lot. Yeah, absolutely. But it's really interesting because there was another place that I worked for many years, and there was one of the presenters there who is no longer there, but had you know, everybody was aware of this presenter's behaviour, and everybody was aware of the NDAs and the young producers who were being abused. And nothing happened until said presenter was caught abusing a young producer on camera. But up until that point, there had been NDAs and all sorts of people were paid off.
Well, there you go. You see, had to actually be visual evidence for anything to actually happen.
Yeah. And it's heartbreaking because nobody should have to put up with that nonsense.
No.
But the BBC, though, do you think that it should go? Can we lose the BBC?
100%. Well, there is so much independent media now. I mean, I sign on to a few podcasts and a few other things. Obviously, you know, talkTV is something that has become absolutely vital in so many different ways. You know, the problem you've got is that, as I said, the BBC will only show one agenda. When they do broadcast something, it's like, well, we're going to focus on that angle. You know, we're not going to focus. It's obviously, question time is something that I used to like. I mean, you know, that's so biased. It's unbelievable. You know, and that's the problem. And if they
I was invited onto Question Time at one point. I had phone calls, and I rang a friend of mine who'd been on it, whose name you would know, and I said, "Look, what do you think?" And he went, "Don't do it. Don't do it.
There you go.
It's a lion's pit. Don't do it. They're
so you
setting
probably
you
would have
up."
been ripped apart.
Yeah, that's what he said. He said they're setting you up to be the fall guy.
So you see, that's what I'm trying to say. So the thing is that if a government did actually get control and say, right, well, you know, because of this, that, and the other, because obviously there's so many reasons why the BBC should go, and then we're going to put you under a subscription model, and I think they'd be like, oh no, you know. I was going to say something else then, but I didn't.
But the BBC certainly isn't needed anymore to make drama.
No.
Isn't needed anymore to make game shows. Isn't needed anymore to do entertainment, is it? Because there are so many forms of entertainment now. If we need it for anything, then it would be for, let's say, news.
I suppose national national events. But again, when there are national events, again, there's always a bias. You know, and that's the problem you have. The problem is that, as I said, because there's so many options nowadays, and a lot of TV is with the mainstream, it is sort of saturated. You know, they go on for years and years and years until something, obviously, you know, with Greg Wallace, that's obviously a prime example, because that's been going on for years and years and years. Yeah. But now something's happened, so it's like they want to sort of get rid of it.
Yeah, they always, I mean, it's all these organisations are the same. They always wait until they can't ignore it anymore, and they should just deal with it on an earlier time. Tristan, great to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed. Can we do without the BBC, or is it an institution that is so valuable to this country that we ought to preserve, if not all of it, some of it? Give me a call, 0344 499 1000. Hi there, good morning. It's Petrie here, and we are discussing the BBC because Ofcom has said that it is losing the public's trust. So I wanted to sort of unpick that a bit. I mean, it's not been a good time for the organisation in recent months, or years even, with the whole Hugh Edwards and all of that, and how these people are allowed to be revolting human beings with the people they work with, and not only that, but of course with Hugh Edwards, he went even further than that, and the likes of Rolf Harris and Jimmy Savile, and need I say more? They keep saying that lessons will be learned. We know that, and Ofcom. It's really interesting, the lack of power that Ofcom has over the BBC. A few years ago it was announced that the BBC would fall under Ofcom, and everybody was like, oh good, that's a good thing, to be under Ofcom. But at first complaint, any complaint is overseen by the BBC Trust. So it is not until the BBC Trust itself, marking its own homework, has failed to achieve a resolution of some description, that it is then passed on to Ofcom. So although they do come under Ofcom, it's very rare that a complaint makes it through the BBC Trust situation, which can go on for a very long time, and people losing the will to live, that it ever gets passed on to Ofcom. So that is the situation that we're in. It's an odd organisation. It's very, very strange. I mean, there were people, people that I work with who had been there for decades. And were saying, well, they can't fire me. They can't get rid of me now. It'll cost them too much, or it's this, or it's that. And the whole attitude I found, having come from commercial, I've been commercial broadcasting all my career, up until the point that I thought, I'll give the BBC a go. I mean, you've got to have worked at the BBC. I wanted to do it. My dad had worked there. I wouldn't go there until he died. But I thought, it used to be the holy grail of broadcasters. It used to be the place that you didn't feel you'd achieved as a broadcaster if you hadn't broadcast at the BBC. That's certainly how I felt about it about 10 years ago when I started working there. And I was so disappointed with it. I was so disappointed with the attitude of the people who worked there, who'd been there for forever. I was so disappointed with the structure of it. I was disappointed with the pathetic... I don't even know what to say. It was just pathetic. The whole thing was, I don't know, pathetic. As a broadcaster, I found it really weak. I found it didn't have any backbone. I found it didn't have any, for me as a broadcaster, many years in broadcasting. But anyway. I don't have the same faith I once had in the BBC. I'm glad I worked there, because that was a little thing that I wanted to tick off my list of things to do, but I wouldn't go back. Paula, good morning.
Good morning, Petrie. How are you?
I'm very well. How are you?
Oh, I'm fine, thank you.
Good. Did you have a good weekend?
Yes, I did actually, yeah.
Oh, lovely. Very nice. That's all that we want.
I did.
So tell me about the BBC. Do you think it's past its sell-by date? Is there any part of it we need to rescue?
That gentleman that we're just speaking to you about then,
Tristan.
on about, when he was on about the Top of the Pops and Noel Edmonds thing. Yeah. I used to watch all them.
Well, we didn't have any choice, did we, back then?
Well, no.
I mean, the BBC was, you had Blue Peter, we had Top of the Pops.
I watched them when I was really, really young. But I stopped paying my TV licence 2 months ago.
Oh, right.
Just because I don't watch it, so why should I bloody pay for it?
Oh, that's fair enough. So you don't use iPlayer, you don't listen to the radio, you don't listen to BBC Radio?
No. If I needed the information, it's always talkTV.
Yeah. I mean, I think that, there is so much more choice now, isn't there? That I do wonder what the unique selling point of the BBC is.
Well, nothing. I mean, I used to watch soaps. There's a soap on there. I don't know if you can mention anything or
EastEnders. Yeah, you can mention EastEnders.
Yeah, EastEnders, yeah. I mean, I used to be, well into that as well, but I don't even know what's going on now.
No, I mean, I think when it first came out, I probably watched it for a bit, but that's because we didn't have any choice.
And stuff, when they were on.
Yeah, now I can choose a documentary of my liking and watch it whenever I want to, and I do appreciate BBC iPlayer. I do use that because I don't watch television. Sometimes I miss out on some dramas, and I think they still make some good dramas, but we don't need the BBC to be making dramas. I think that's what I'm trying to say. If the BBC is to be anything, it should be a reliable news source that isn't fake news. So you can go to the BBC and go, right, I know that's not fake. That's what the BBC should be.
Absolutely, yeah.
So maybe we could afford to lose.
I just don't watch it ever. I don't even ever turn BBC on. So.
And you don't use the BBC News website or the.
No. I watch ITV mostly. Channel 4, Channel 5, and then obviously you've got ITVX, you've got YouTube, on these
Freeview, you've got all those free channels.
Yeah, it's like, why do I want to watch BBC? I mean, for a fact, the news bores me to tears because they don't have a personality for starters.
Yeah, I mean, I get that there's you don't feel like you're getting a
but you get that with ITV, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I just don't know whether we've moved on from. I think the BBC. It's like the NHS, right? The BBC started off as one thing, and it's sort of grown into another. Like the NHS a lot of people would say that's offering way more procedures and things than it should be offering, right? It was supposed to be a health service. It's no longer that. It's all bells and whistles. And I think the BBC grew too big as well. And certainly now, with all the choices that you've mentioned, I don't think we need the BBC to be making costume dramas anymore.
No, absolutely not. And I mean, I heard you earlier when you were speaking to that gentleman before the
Tristan.
Yeah, before the.
And in the papers, Ed.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, sorry, I forget sometimes.
That's all right, darling.
Yeah, when he, I had to laugh when he said, "What are you, a swinger?"
He's very naughty. Ed is.
That bloody laughed me head off.
As if I'm going to admit to that on my show, But I don't know what my grasses are saying about me, but they're definitely saying something. But I don't know. I don't think it's that. Listen, Paula, always adorable to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed. Right, I'm going to take a quick break here. When I come back, we're going to be talking to the adorable Sheldon. Hi there, and on Talk right now, it's Petrie, and I'm with you until 1 o'clock. And we are talking about the BBC, and I'm asking if the BBC is too big to fail. It's too important to fail, because right now it's going through a few issues again. With a very similar problem, and they will go through many more of these, I can tell you, because some of the monsters that I know for sure, 100% that work there, they'll get their turn. That's the only thing I can hope for, is that they'll get their turn. There's a couple of people I'm particularly thinking of who are vile. So hopefully they'll hit the headlines at some point, and they were never particularly vile to me. It was to other people around them, and I can't bear that. I just think it's ugly and nasty and not necessary. But the BBC, there will be more scandals. There will be more to come out about the people that they are protecting. But I just wonder if we need it anymore. Now, look, I think that what we need in this world is a verifiable, fact-checked news organisation that, with all the other fake news going on, BBC Verify is very, very good. They work very hard to verify facts and figures, but while they hire in their own image, there will be bias. There is bias. There is bias in newsrooms. There's bias in programmes, because it's usually the team will talk, and they all come from the same university, or they all come from the same background, and they've all got the same views, and of course the programme is going to hold those views. That's what happens. They've got to stop hiring in their own image. They've got to get a more diverse staff, and they keep talking about this, and I don't mean diverse in colour, I mean diverse in background. They need to get more people in there who are not just going to be yes men, that are not just going to be saying, oh yeah, let's talk about it, because it's all going to be biased. But what we need in this modern day and age is a news organisation that doesn't fail us in terms of facts, just facts, proper truth, and no bias. But do we need the BBC to be making dramas? Do we need them to be those expensive dramas that they make, the expensive programmes that they make, when entertainment now is so freely available to us on so many different platforms? Is there an argument for saying to the BBC, right, trim right down, and just go back to just being a news organisation? We don't need any entertainment programmes from you. I think there is an argument for that. And bring back things like local radio and make sure you do it properly. But other people love the BBC and think that it is one of those people who work there, probably. Sheldon, hello.
Good evening, Petrie. How are you?
I'm very well. Always better to hear from you, obviously.
Thank you, darling. I haven't got the best of lines tonight, so I'll be very brief with you, okay?
All right.
Okay, so we'll go back to the inception of the BBC with our best friend, Mr. Reith, who said that the Charter was all about information, education, and entertainment, in that order. Now, I believe that the BBC still provides a level of those three things. However, perhaps more of the information comes through the radio as opposed to your television screen. Your education comes very much through your radio as opposed to through your television screen.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I'm a big fan of radio, and I love radio.
I'm a huge fan of radio. The pictures are much better, and you learn more from Melvin Bragg than you'll ever learn from anything else. So, it's one of those things. Mm. However, I think it still exists. On the entertainment side of it, which I can understand that you don't want them to spend vast amounts on phony programs that are dressed up and cost lots of money that people are not particularly interested in, except for those who want to watch it. It's a very small minority, probably, but they still have to have some sort of basis of drama, because they used to be excellent at drama.
But I would agree that the BBC does. Look, whatever the programmes that it does well, right? But we don't need them anymore. We used to, because there was only, first of all, 1 channel, then 2 channels, then 3, then 4, and then 5, right? They're the 5 terrestrial channels. But
yes, of course.
But now, entertainment is freely available on lots of different platforms, and people are making good dramas. You know, you've got Netflix who are still making things like, you know, I don't know if they do Downton Abbey, but you know what I mean. There are a lot. They are.
Of course they do. Yeah.
And they then you then pay a subscription to watch whatever it is that they make. I don't think the BBC needs to do that anymore, no matter how good it was.
I understand why you're saying that. However, you have to respect the fact that not everybody has a smart television. Not everybody can use the iPlayer. Not everybody can get every platform that they want instantly.
But within a few years, that is changing, right? You know, I mean, my son doesn't even watch a television. He watches everything on a laptop or YouTube, or, you know, he doesn't. You know, I think he has a television for gaming on.
Okay.
But he doesn't watch it.
Or can we go to the elder generation then, okay? Now, when you talk about entertainment on the BBC, and everybody disses daytime television, okay? I know they do. And there's no point in saying that they don't, because they diss it all the time. Many older people love their daytime television programs. They love their reality daytime television programs. They look forward to it. It doesn't challenge them. They enjoy it, and they like it. So that's part of BBC's entertainment value. And it certainly is for them. They don't want to use modern technology. They like it as it is. And some of them couldn't use it if it was provided to them.
But okay, then let me ask you, do we need...
I agree one thing with you completely. Factual reality, when it comes down to the news, and when we talk about the BBC Verify situation, it is very, very important indeed. However, I look at various news programs all the time. I look at everything from Al Jazeera through to the French channels, through to every channel, through to Euronews, through to everything. And there's a lot of stuff that does not come through the BBC. When you actually watch it, it doesn't come through the BBC.
Yeah.
Because I think it's actually filtered out. Because they don't want to show you the truth. They may verify it, but they're not going to show you it.
See, that's concerning, isn't it? Because like you, I gather my news from all sorts of different sources, and that's why I read every paper every day, because you get a different nuance, you get a different take on it, you get to see. I don't just look at one newspaper or one front page, but it does concern me that with the BBC, that this behemoth is, you know, for example, let's take Radio 1, Radio 2. We don't need those. You don't need Radio 1. You've got all sorts of commercial stations pumping out equally good music.
I can tell you something now. Gold Radio and other stations could bomb them off the planet tomorrow.
Yeah.
Loads of them. We don't need one. We don't need Radio 1, Radio 1 Extra, Radio 2, Radio 2 Extra.
No, because there are commercial stations that are doing that just as well.
They do it better.
And they're not off, and they're doing it because it's a commercial station. They make money out of it, blah blah, whatever. And I agree. So it's things like that I think the BBC needs to be told. Look, this money that you're spending on presenter fees alone on Radio 1 it's probably about how many millions a week? You know,
money. Yeah, I know. It's
crazy. For pop music, which they're not adding anything different to Heart FM or, you know, whoever.
No. And when you were talking about local radio stations, which is very important indeed to me, because I live in Wales, I have Radio Wales. And Radio Wales is not locally, completely local, but it's national. And the other thing we used to have, was a thing called Swansea Sound.
Yeah.
Which was very important to the people of Swansea.
Yeah.
because it was actually indigenous to them. And it didn't just talk about the people who were from Swansea. It talked about things that were going to appertain later in Swansea, and the people who were creative in Swansea. Now, that is still going on, but it's very minor, because now they've closed the station down to the extent that it's only done in somebody's front room around the corner from me, because I know what's happened. Now, this is very disturbing in local radio terms, because if that disappeared completely, it would be the same as any other area of the country. If you were living in the Hebrides and you wanted some information about your locale, and they closed the station down there, where would one get the information?
Yeah, they should never have been allowed to do it. They should never. That should have been part of their mandate. They should never ever have been allowed to do it.
Of course, it should have been. Yeah, it should definitely well have been. The other one regarding the middle when I was talking about informing and educating. Oh, this is a hard one. Education through the screen at the moment is very difficult to achieve, because it's when you do try to find anything that will seriously educate you, there is nothing that has the time to give you the opportunity to learn. All it does, it gives you snapshots, tiny snapshots of things that you may find interesting, which is full of bias. And that is very difficult to understand.
Yeah, I think, I honestly, Sheldon, I think the BBC has moved away from its original mandate, and it needs to be instructed that it has to go.
I'd love to go backwards and say I don't need, I don't need the media in its general terms at the moment, and I don't need the whole of 72 channels, and I don't need God knows what. I know it's available. I understand it's available. But if you want something that is absolutely factual, absolutely entertaining, and absolutely informative, that is gone.
Yeah. It has.
It's gone.
I think the landscape is worse for it, but I do think that the BBC needs to cut its cloth, and it certainly we have to look at the BBC and say, what do we need?
The waste is enormous.
Yeah.
When you were, I hate to be personal, but when you were working there, Petrie, right?
Yeah.
You were on the inside of this situation.
Yeah.
And did you see this coming, or did you think it was just the way the BBC always was?
No, I tell you, I mean, I remember as a very little girl running around the BBC on a weekend when my dad was putting stories together,
exactly.
and we would hooligan.
History,
yeah, so that it was it was so important to me, and I really wanted to work there at some point. And like I said, I waited till
I can't imagine going into broadcasting house. It would have been
it's magical.
Biggest privilege.
Yeah, for a broadcaster, the first day that I walked in, having signed a contract to actually broadcast, was the most magical moment. It really was. But I was very quickly disappointed, and I very quickly learned that this wasn't the organisation that I always thought it was, and that yes, I could see this coming. Is the short answer. I knew it was. I knew it would be hoisted by its own petard. I knew it got too big for its own boots. I mean, it is not a nice place to work. Let me put it that way. Sheldon, always a joy to talk to you, though. Thank you very much indeed. Got to take a quick break, but back in a sec. Hello there, this is Talk, and it's Petrie here with you for the next 10 minutes, and we're talking about the BBC because everybody's talking about it at the moment and saying the BBC is losing the public's trust. Like I said, I felt so privileged to be walking in there as a broadcast that lasted about a week. I think, and then I realised that it wasn't quite the place that I thought it was, and probably wasn't the place that it used to be. So yeah, it's a shame, but I wonder what the BBC should become, because it clearly can't stay what it is. And I if you look at it, you can see quite clearly that they should never have got rid of local radio. That was unique to the BBC. They should have got rid of Radio 1 and Radio 2 and possibly even Radio 3 maybe, and kept Radio 4, because the Radio 1 and 2, they're done somewhere else, but equally as well, or if not better, by commercial organisations. They don't need to be doing that and spending millions and millions of pounds a year keeping these stations on air. I don't see the point of them. Maybe they should stop making dramas. You know, that's a lot of money, millions of pounds in dramas, where no doubt they make them well, but there are other organisations that now make them. And if they want us to pay this licence fee towards this organisation, surely they have got to become more realistic about what it is we need from them as opposed to what they want to give us. Andrew has said, I think the BBC should operate the same as ITV with a premium ad-free subscription service. I enjoy the majority of dramas and documentaries the BBC air, but should we be forced to paying for it? No, we shouldn't. Mind you, we do pay for other things. If you've got Netflix, you pay for it. If you've got Disney Plus, you pay for it. I love Apple TV. I pay for that. So I'm not against paying for stuff. I'm just against paying for stuff that I don't want. I mean, that seems to me to be a bit of a waste. I mean, I do use BBC News. I use BBC iPlayer. So I think I should pay for it. But I just don't think that it should be doing what it's doing. Gary says, I'm not a fan of the BBC, especially after all the scandals and constant repeats. I haven't paid the licence fee for 20 years. I don't watch the live TV. I don't watch the BBC. And then he goes on to say, well, apart from the odd soap and the programme where they ask politicians questions and some cookery programmes and some comedies and occasional film. So in other words, you're stealing. You're stealing. The licence fee, I think, is good value if you use the BBC. It is not good value if you don't. And I certainly don't think that anyone should be paying the BBC licence fee for the sake of just watching something random on another channel that is live. I just don't think that's reasonable. I think if you use it, pay for it. If you don't use it, don't pay for it. As simple as that. Jackie says, I don't have any experience of working in the BBC. I only watch it. Sadly, it sounds much like the BBC is being run by unnecessary leaders with clipboards, much like the NHS is run. I agree. That's exactly what it is. Both used to be more efficient many years ago. And they've got so many, and we don't see the salaries of the managers because they only have to put out the salaries of talent. But let me tell you, the managers, there are whole bands of managers on 300,000 plus money, and then there's another band that's on 250,000. There's another band that's on 107. There's hundreds of them, hundreds and hundreds of them. What they do, I have literally got no idea, because during COVID, when they were all at home doing nothing, the BBC, certainly the broadcasting arm of the BBC, we ran perfectly well without them. Didn't need any of them. Didn't need any advice from them, didn't need any editorial from them, certainly didn't get any help from them, didn't get anything from any of them. Complete waste of rations, in my view. Anyway, Sam says, I wouldn't miss the BBC, bar Silent Witness. However, do you use it as part of keeping up with breaking news, i.e. when the Queen passed away, or a big thing? If so, how would reporting be different? I flick, Sam, between BBC and Sky for those kind of stories, to be honest with you. But BBC is a bit slow. And it's slow for all the right reasons, and that is it is double checking and fact checking and doing all that, but it can be a bit slow, which is why I will use one that goes quickly and one that will take its time, but then, you know, whatever. So that's what I do with that. I'm not a fan of the BBC. Oh no, hang on, there's another one here. I read that one. I think the BBC should operate I've read that one. The last thing on the BBC that I really enjoyed was the Miranda sitcom, but that was 14 years ago. It was good, actually. I did like that. I love her. I think she's wonderful. Right, let's go to Ali in West Yorkshire. Ali, do we need to keep the BBC?
Hi.
Hi.
I think we should, to be fair.
In its current form?
No, not in its current form, but I definitely don't think we should get rid of it.
Okay. What bits do you think we should definitely keep?
Well, I only watch the iPlayer. I only really watch a few comedy shows, or mostly sport. But breaking news, I will watch BBC News. But in terms of what the whole thing in the Middle East, I only watch Al Jazeera because, in my opinion, every single Western news channel has been totally on Israel's side. So I definitely do not watch any of them. I only watch Al Jazeera when it comes to the Middle East.
But, I mean, that is a selective bias, though, isn't it? Because you are watching something that will only agree with the Palestinian view.
Well, it's one channel versus every.
No. But I'm just saying, you
all of them.
But you have chosen your echo chamber.
It's not really an echo chamber because they do have Israelis point on reasonably minded. I'm sorry, but all the Israelis that they have on Sky News they're all IDF. They're all pro-Zionists. On Al Jazeera, they'll have reasonably minded who don't dehumanize Palestinians, who actually are objective. And I can hold, debates about it. They're not one-sided Zionists like they are on the other channels. Okay,
so you disagree with the BBC's news process, and look, I think that they've been biased. I think that there's no question about that, but I also think that they can be accused of bias on both sides. They refuse to call Hamas terrorists. They put together a documentary where they used a Hamas minister's son as the voiceover. So there are Israelis who would be listening to that thinking that they were biased in support of Hamas.
But we could just say whenever there's a strike, whenever they kill Palestinians, and the other channels, Sky News, CNN, they'll only ever have the Israeli narrative. They don't, the absolute silence and censorship of pro-Palestinian, just pro-Muslim voices. Oh, it's extraordinary how much is being. You don't ever hear any Palestinian voices.
No. But I also just point out another thing. Is that somebody was saying to me the other day, with the bombing of Iran, they're going, look, they've not shown any bombing in Iran, they've only shown the bombing in Israel, and it's the same with Palestine. They're not showing any bombing in Palestine, but they're only showing the bombing in Israel. But for both of those, the reason is that there's no film crews allowed in Iran to film the bombing of Iran, and there are no film crews allowed by the Israelis, I have to say, but there are no film crews allowed in there to film in there either. So there is a bias, but let's not be blinkered to it.
Well, there's plenty of journalists on the ground in Gaza who are recording, who are reporting on what's going on there. Al Jazeera, just all their correspondents, they're all based in Gaza. They use them. Obviously, they're not allowed. You can't send journalists to Israel, doesn't, and Egypt. They don't allow journalists to go into Gaza. So that's why they rely on journalists. And not just that, Israel's murdered 296 journalists in the last 2 years, more than any other conflict in the 21st century, and yet there's literally no condemnation of that on any mainstream news channel, which I find extraordinary.
Which there absolutely should be. And listen, I'm not trying to argue with you. I'm just pointing out because I'm very down the line. I will seek my information and make sure that I have a rounded point of view before I would
just say about you, I think you're the best presenter on this channel. All the others are so